And see, that's not up yet.
We're live.
We're live on YouTube. Nope. That's the latest. I don't see it on my YouTube yet. You guys got anything out there?
No,
Not yet.
I haven't opened anything else up.
Well, we are live on Facebook.
That's good.
And where's my content? And we're live on my Rumble. And Gerald, what do you got on Geezer Geeks?
Nothing yet on either one.
I see upcoming on Geezers. And I see, Jared's joining. We'll tackle all of it at the same time before we get to the meat and the potatoes. Look at that.
Turn it. You're sideways. No,
you're still sideways.
This is terrible. I have to put the phone in an upright position. Unbelievable.
You can't rotate the image.
You can't. Apparently, it only works if you hold the phone in the upright position. Okay. This app sucks. I've been doing this for 5 years, Robert. This is the worst.
Well, I'm just going to toss it back at you, and that if you've been doing it for 5 years, you should be able to do it anywhere, including here, because I have gone through all the pain that you're moaning and complaining about. I've gone through all of that shit. Why does it work here and not work there? What the hell is this? They won't accept that. This one won't allow that. And what I had to do is put my face in it, rub it around, and make it acquiesce to my requests.
Make it your bitch.
Yeah.
I'm glad I could come into the Geezer squad with the right attitude. All these people are ugly. Where am I? What's going on?
That's right.
I have an announcement to make. Effective today, the Minnesota Aviation Hall of Fame has installed me as a member of the Minnesota Aviation Hall of Fame, and the formal banquet will be next April in Minnesota. It's me.
Congratulations! It couldn't happen to a more deserving geezer.
Yeah,
I mean, that's sweet.
One of the inductees is a Apollo 8 astronaut, and then another one is I think a Korean War ace, and there's one other. Hi, Audrey, how's it going? And so that just tickled the hell out of me. It made my day. I had a call from the president of the Minnesota Historical Society and said I had been picked, and I am the newest member in the class of 2025 to be inducted into the Minnesota Aviation Hall of Fame.
Damn, so, I bet there's going to be a bunch of high flyers at that little gig when you go up there.
Yeah.
That's awesome, Jim. Congratulations. That is seriously awesome.
Major General Gene Andriotti submitted my name, and I had about 6 other general officers from the Minnesota Air Guard give me put their names in there too. So, you done with screwing around with it there, Jared?
Oh, well, I got my monitor up and running by putting an adapter in my new phone.
Oh, okay.
And Jim, do you know how much better you sound in stereo?
I don't know. I don't hear in stereo, so.
Well, you sound real good.
Oh, good. I always sound like a scratched record when I talk.
Well, no, frequently you sound like a broken record. That's a difference.
Oh, that too.
Ooh, welcome to the geese.
Yeah.
All right, I'm already hitting below the belt and complaining. I fit right in.
That's right.
There's a whole lot of that goes on when these geezers get together and have a gab fest. It's like everybody's got some peccadillo, some little area of the, shit, a burr under their saddle or a flower in their garden. And they all want to share it. And they all think that, it's all unicorns and rainbows and shit. And we're here to help bring some reality to that realm, because it's not all rainbows and unicorns, but there are rainbows and unicorns.
Yeah, but it's also liver and dog shit too. So you have to watch out for everything.
Well, I've officially used all my bitching time and wasted. I don't have anything left. I'll just listen.
Okay. All right. Should we just mute him permanently?
Well, he's gonna get the good old treatment.
Yeah.
Oh,
I get. I should be filing charges of elder abuse when they pick on me. But
oh no, you really got to see it. If Jim can make it up some Mayan pyramids, he can be abused.
Yes.
Yep. Yep.
You're fit for trial.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. We could abuse him for at least 2 more years.
Who?
You.
Why
Who?
2 more? Why 2 more years?
Who?
I turn 80 next year, so.
Yeah, I figured we might be able to slack on you a little bit after 81.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I doubt it, but.
Yeah. Hey, with all the nanotechnology, all of us should expect to cruise into immortality within at least 10 years.
Well, I'm gonna live to be 105. I already know that. So that means I have 26 years left.
Hey, I'm leaning on 2 uncles. One lived to 104, the other lived to 111. I'm hoping I keep that thing going.
Nice.
Well, my mom's dad, he lived to be 97, and he didn't. I mean, but he had lost his wife earlier. My grandmother, and he really didn't care if he lived or not. But then a great grandfather Sicilian, and 2 great great grandfathers also Sicilian lived to be 103 to 107. So I figure
Wow.
I have good genetics. I know, look how handsome I am. I mean, so I have to have wonderful genetics. Yeah.
Well,
But is Heidi driving somebody crazy, or is she just driving? Oh.
who are you talking about?
Heidi Pop.
She's driving.
Oh,
Yeah, she's driving. Yeah.
All I see is 4 participants. It says 4 participants. Is there a 5th?
If you look over on the right side in the studio, you'll see a section that has live chat, studio, and campaigns. If you click on the live chat, then
No.
you'll see what's coming in, at least from my YouTube. Have you tried anything on Rumble, Garrel?
Yeah, I'm. It says waiting for stream, so it never kicked off. So I don't
No
know.
shit.
Yeah, to me it just says I'm on my phone and it says live 8 minutes 50 seconds and it says participants of 4 and there's 4 people on the screen and there's 0 another person.
I'm not sure. That doesn't sound right to me. It sounds fishy.
Well, I could take a screenshot. Well, I'll send that to you later. Or I could send it to you now, actually. I can send you a screenshot.
Yeah,
Robert.
do that. Yeah.
Here it goes.
But now we can't see your smiley face. So
Well,
that's
I'm going back to the app, I think. I gotta find the app.
Oh,
Stupid. Did you get
Yeah.
the picture? I think I'm doing the right thing. I'm drinking while we started, so I'm.
Well, yeah,
Yeah.
there is that. Yeah, there's definitely that going on.
yeah, I will participate, but
Yes.
in a smoking format.
I
And I'm
will
gonna
eventually calm down.
I just got the image.
you'll see that it shows participants 4
Yeah.
there.
Yeah. So if you swipe it to one side a little bit, then the other controls should come up. I think.
Nope. It just highlights the images. What I'm confused about is why there's the 4 of us at the top, and then you and Jim Goodall are repeated at the bottom under participants.
Because that's the display for the people in the studio. You can see their individual ones down at the bottom, and then that's why I can do shit like, move.
Oh, now the bottom ones do scroll, and there is only 4 participants. When I scroll at the bottom,
do you see the control down at the bottom where it's got the little dialogue box, 2 of them together with a little green light on it?
Okay. What about it?
Does that show you the chat?
It just says Robert Bauer, The Nexus. And well, it also says Chiro Sounds, Conspiracy Music, Audrey.
Those are the people in the chat.
Those are the people in the chat.
Oh, well, hello, everyone. I got to be less angry. I've only been doing this forever.
Yeah. That's one of the things. There's a bunch of checklists. You have to. We go down and check off to get into the Geezer Club here, and we were talking the other night about Jim's qualifications being that his kids have kids have kids. And we said, well, we're thinking that maybe that shows that Jim's been around and he has spread his seed freely and has resulted in a bunch of planting. So that's kind of what you got to. That's what happens when you get to the age of the geek.
Well,
You become a geezer as a geek.
And Memorial Day was Jared's first anniversary of being dead.
That's true. 1 year since I died.
What, 7 times?
Yeah, I was basically dead 7 times for 45 minutes.
And
wow.
Yeah, some bitch is still here. He's just too ornery to die. So
that's true. So Robert, now that I'm semi not shutting up for your show, should I introduce myself?
I was wondering if anybody else besides us not only knew who you were but cared. So I thought that maybe
that's it. Yeah. Do we swear on this show?
Oh, there's no fucking bad language used on this show.
All right. So hey, fuck you.
Do not withhold your. The whole thing is about being verbally expressive, and I've got something that I want to show that we saw the other night, but it's too fucking good to not share again. But to your point, this is a free thinking zone and a free expression zone, and the only thing that we do is, and it's only because of the characters that are on the screen right now. There's a propensity for a verbose, loquacious expression of whatever the hell is on their mind. And the cool thing is that in each mind, there's nuggets and they're bouncing around. They're knocking into each other. And as you're on some kind of, vein and rant and you're heading down that path, and all of a sudden a nugget go tink. And we'll sit there and go, all right, where were we? First of all, how did we get where we just were, and where are we going next? So it is a free form, free thought, free thinker space, and by default, a free speaker.
Yeah, let the world know who you are, Jared.
Okay, well,
give us the cliff notes.
Okay, since Goodall cares. I'm Jared Murphy.
But go on.
This is why I died, Jim, because of your lack of care.
Oh, okay. Oh, that's a heavy piece to throw on me. Jesus.
Now, of all the people that are listening or on the phone, before I introduce myself, I do design, build, remodeling. So I'm a carpenter who works in sandals who came back from the dead. Anyone else?
Oh, wow. That is bad. But it wasn't on Easter. But it or Good Friday. Yeah.
And between Lazarus and Christ, who's still on the planet? Mate.
This
still
guy.
Here. This guy.
Yeah.
Yeah, but the other one's in our hearts.
Yeah, that's true. I'm not there yet. I'm not there yet.
Because that's where he went.
Yes, I will haunt your nightmares. No. All right, so for everyone, my name is Jared Murphy. I wrote a book a while ago called It's Not Aliens, Worse It's Us, Discovering Our Lost History. I have done field work exploration. I've been with Michael Tellinger in South Africa to Belize doing Mayan ruins and research. I do a podcast called Not Aliens. I guest on Michael Roser's Dark Hour. I co-host on Everything Imaginable and a few other shows. Been around the block. I'm sure there's a few people who have seen me on a few shows, including Coast to Coast and a bunch of others. So what I do is field actual experimentation work in, trying to discover our lost history and ancient past. And I co-host also sometimes until I died. I was co-hosting for a while with Mr. Goodall here. That's on our show for Not Aliens, which is on YouTube and a few other things. But right now, I've been doing a lot more actual exploration and field work since I died. I was doing that before, and now I'm joining you all here because I have not done a lot of podcasting, which used to be about 30 or so a month. And so now it's pretty fun to get back on and hang out with these guys. So that's the Cliff Notes. There you go.
And he's from Minnesota.
Oh, yeah.
Minnesota.
Oh, yeah. About to go fishing for the crappies on the roof.
Yeah.
And, but I was born in Germany. Dad was in the army. So I'm a Minnesotan. I grew up here, but born out of country.
So you're are you an immigrant or a colonizer?
Actually, my family's roots go back to founding the state. Davern Street in St. Paul. One of the founding fathers helped found the state articles and pre Minnesota. Where I'm actually traceable back to the foundation of the state. On my mom's side, my grandfather was French, and they came from France within 3 generations through Canada. So I'm a real Minnesotan who can go to the archives in the state and mess around if I want, because I'm a Minnesotan.
So your proclivity for research and digging into the mysterious, the unknown, and the otherwise. Where did that come from?
Honestly, it was my fascination with history I started really digging into books when I was in 2nd grade, because one of my biggest heroes is my grandfather, who was a tank commander of the 13th Tank Battalion, 7th Armored Division under Patton. He landed at D-Day as a captain. He was in charge of a Sherman tank and landed at D-Day and was in the Battle of the Bulge. He went through Belgium and Holland, back through Battle of the Bulge, made it in a tank, except blown out twice, all the way to Berlin in a tank. And I became fascinated, starting with World War II. And I worked my way through the war. And then I just kept learning backwards and forwards. And for many, many years, I ignored megalithic history. And I thought Stonehenge, I believed what everyone believed. It was all built by people with loincloths, and they just had big, heavy stones. So ironically, I loved history because of my grandfather and ignored the ancient megalithic, and then realized I completely had it wrong. But that was the inspiration. Grandpa's military history.
So, I can see where that inspiration would be very intense because of how you experienced it. But when you got into the paleontology, what was it that made you go, what you just said, that you found out that all of this stuff was wrong?
What it was I have a background in historical remodeling, and granted, 127 or 140 years old is a lot different, especially in St. Paul in Minnesota. There's one of the most intact Victorian avenues besides in Chicago and on the East Coast. It's Summit Avenue, and I was started there, and I started thinking about foundations. And what really got me curious was these megalithic buildings with the polygonal construction. It just didn't make any sense that you have it was, I think, what a lot of other researchers were noticing. It's like the further down you went, in a lot of places you had extremely advanced construction methods, and at the same time, you're looking for Incan and Mayan and Egyptian gold from these dynastic periods, but these ruins were showing signs of being tens of thousands of years old, if not older, like Robert Schoch's work. And I was a kid in the 90s and saw Graham Hancock off the coast of India doing, dredging up a city that could have only been above water 30, 40,000 years ago. And then you have Robert Schoch with, 240 with John Anthony West going, okay, he said, don't quote me, but 240 to 300,000 years old. Then you start looking at the megalithic, the complexities of, it's not just that they're big. I just could not stop learning about it. Once I got into it, I'm like, hold on a minute. I believed everything the Natural History Museum showed me, which was furry loincloth people dragging big things for the gods or aliens helping them. Because, if we believe our linear paths, then clearly it was aliens, because we never built anything that big. And so we have new fogs of war. And I was a big fan of Leonard Nimoy and In Search of, How about that one?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
There you go.
I mean, I didn't want to figure anything out. I just want to hear him talk about it.
Well, yeah, I mean, that goes to the whole thing about, who would you want to narrate your life? A lot of people, the Morgan Freeman, right? Because everything would be motherfucker this and this motherfucker and then that motherfucker and then those motherfuckers over there and then all them motherfuckers over there.
Yeah, but who wouldn't like Pee Wee Herman?
Ooh, that's a stretch. I'd have to go, well, the thing is, you'd have to be able to write the script, right?
Or, okay.
Yeah. We can just use AI and make anybody say it whether they want to or not.
Oh, how about Casey Kasem?
Oh, yeah.
Ooh, yeah, that was a good one.
I listened to a radio show that actually took Casey Kasem's voice and put it in AI so they can type in and have him answer and do stuff on their show.
Oh, that would be amazing. Well, now here's the rest of the story.
Yeah.
That would be phenomenal.
Or a Walter Cronkite.
Oh,
that's the way it was. I mean, he was sweet. Oh, and remember, you guys, while we're on this subject, there was a nugget that got knocked into something else. You guys remember Laugh-In?
Oh, absolutely.
Yes.
You remember Gary, the announcer?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And now
Gary Owens.
He was just, I remember seeing that and I said, one day I want to do that, because just being able to stand there and flap your yap and somebody pays you to talk. It's like, are you kidding me? I want whatever that is. I want as much of that as I can get, because especially if I can do it at home. And I've been able to produce professional shit for the last 25 years since I started my studio. So I'm sitting there going, okay, well, if you got some vocal vibes and a jive that you can drop, animation. I was telling Heidi Pop this, that, she could easily do an entire Disney movie. She could voice the whole damn thing.
Right.
And do it really well, because she's, whatever that woman is on, I'd like some, but in smaller doses.
I personally need a couch, an interview couch, and have my AI Ed McMahon as my sidekick.
Ooh.
Here's Gerald. Yeah.
I still think
look, it looks like we have another guest to join this merry amusement that's going on. Let's see if this one can figure out the tech, because we all know who it is when that happens.
Oh boy.
Incoming.
Oh, that sumbitch from Australia. There goes the evening.
Yeah,
Hey, B, you're still on mute. We don't see your face.
Yeah, well,
yeah. In fact, you can keep them both off. We'll just say hey to you once in a while.
Yeah, just so we'll just announce your existence.
Be in the house. So Jared, there's a whole bunch of things that I got questions on just of what you said, let alone, knowing what I know about the project and what Jim's stories and pictures and shit.
Yeah.
But I'd like to ask you this before we get interrupted from down under here. Do you think that your finds will be of enough substance and import that it will have a significant effect on changing the history that we've been told?
Absolutely. And it's more of a no-brainer, but yes.
And why?
Well, this is no secret. I've talked about it enough. So for everyone out there listening, when we're thinking of like gold objects, or we're thinking about finds that would be important, like Tutankhamun's tomb or something, those are all dynastic finds, and I, like everyone, is in love with the Indiana Jones profile of finding some object. What no one has really been in really investigating, Dr. Joseph David Ovitz has, the father of geopolymers. He's worked at Pumapunku and Tiwanaku and like the H blocks, and they've done some tests and said, hey, these are geopolymers. They are cast stone. They are like a concrete, which is important. However, the work that I'm talking about, there's a lot of pieces. Like we think of archaeoacoustics and we think, oh, they blow through some hole in some period loincloth Neolithic structure, and they make the sound of a buffalo for a sacrifice. That's archaeoacoustics to a point. I think that the sound and frequency information that has been already collected about, hey, the foundations of the Colosseums and the foundations of these megalithic polygonal constructions are showing signs of frequency energy work. What I think is so paramount to that is below all of it, forget the gold, forget the burials, is the foundations themselves are probably pre-compacted materials and layers that work in conjunction with the polygonal walls, with not only earthquake and frequency in mind for canceling or stuff like that, but we found stone spheres, and they've done studies to the same effect, that again, they can amplify or repeat a signal depending on how big the stone sphere is and what's the interior composition. And what we're finding around the world is that we have a highly intelligent, not just large megalithic building society, but one that was using geopolymers, that was using it for not just canceling earthquakes, but maybe energy creation. And we have one big example of that, which is Terra Preta, which is an engineered soil found everywhere from Brazil to the identical recipe, a man-made soil that has piezoelectric properties, so it can send and receive electronic signal. It can self-replicate, which Cornell has been doing an experiment on it for 19 years, and they don't rotate crops, so it's the richest growing soil on Earth. It's man-made. It has the sound. It has the frequency energy transfer abilities. It also filters heavy metal and carbon dioxide. And the identical recipe that's in Brazil is in North Africa. It's in South Africa. It's in Australia. It's in Siberia. It's all across Europe. But this soil, they're like, oh, it's a mystery. But if we combine this engineered soil that can send and receive signals with the idea that megalithic foundations are likely built not just on foundations and bedrock, but out of pre-compacted materials that may have been placed intentionally in an order, we might be finding that these buildings and these stone spheres and other indicators are going to show that we have a very advanced prehistory that we don't know anything about. And we're going to
So the first thing that I thought, well, there was a couple of things. I'll start with this one. Do you think there's any connection as it relates to the soil that you just talked about? Do you think there's any connection between that and the Tartarian and the mud flood model?
I think that Tartaria is way underspoken about. The true histories, like why are there Corinthian columns that look the same in Greece that are in Mongolia? Who were the Tartarians? But even prior when we think about, I mentioned earlier that city off the coast of India with Graham Hancock, did a show on it in the 90s.
Yeah, Dwarka.
That
was Dwarka. Then the stuff they found out there was amazing. And there's documented evidence, and then all of a sudden it just kind of goes away.
Yeah, and same thing off the coast of Cuba. So we have cities that are 35.
Yeah, all right. Her work is amazing.
We have 35 to 50,000 year old. Again, the last time they were above water was 35 to 50,000. Well, the city off the Cuba is 50,000 years ago at a minimum. The coast off of India, that was about 36,000 plus years. But then we have Doggerland in Europe between Scotland and France, which was even 8,000 years ago. Still, some of it was above ground, and 18,000 years ago. So every time we talk about the story of humanity, we do it in our minds. Right now, all of us know what the map of the world looks like. This is not the map of the world that was 20,000, 50,000, 100,000 years ago. And I believe right now they're pulling up flora and fauna particles out of the saltwater bed of France to figure out what Doggerland had. I think in the future, if we go even further out, the coastlines that indicate the massive societies that would have been also living on a beach, the very show that we're telling ourselves about what constitutes society, we always relate to the Greeks or the Romans or even Tartaria now. We think of the map of the world as we know it. It is not the map of the world that was 30, 50, 100,000 years ago. And I believe most of our human history, why would you build megalithic if you didn't already live through massive floods and catastrophes? Maybe you really couldn't stop everything. Maybe one of the scary points that I think about is, what if the reason they built so big is because they were used to having a mud wall every 100,000 years?
Right.
But they had already done it multiple times. So when we have Michael Cremo, who I've had the great privilege of interviewing a few times, and I've been able to speak with a half a dozen times, Forbidden Archaeology points out human history with actual paleoanthropological finds of human bones that are 5 million, 8 million, 20 million, 60 million, 120 million year old boot prints. The reality is that humanity and the story of it is so much older than, I meet people who get really excited about my research, and they'll start, and if they're new, everyone goes through phases. And one of the things that, it's not a bad phase, but they'll say, oh, have you heard of the Anunnaki? And I'm like, if you're talking to me about 5,000-year-old stories, let's just, okay, great. It's just
so, Jared, to that point, a week ago on the show, I started off with a couple of things, and one of them was the Sumerian king list, and the fact that there's multiple instances and documented translations and pieces that have this history of the Sumerian kings, and they have a delineation where it's when the flood happened, and then they are accurate from everything else that all of our historians and archaeologists have been able to decipher as they've gone through all of the cosmology and tried to make sense out of whatever the hell it was. But they realized that on that Sumerian king list, from the flood marker forward, it was accurate. The flood marker before that, you had 8 kings who ruled a total of about 240,000 years. The longest reign being about 42,000 years.
Yep.
And all of that information is according to the archaeologists and the Egyptologists and the Sumerians and all these people, they look at it and they go, well, that is myth.
Yeah, it was an allegory or something. But
right, there was something that they were trying to convey that was inaccurate and incorrect. So one of my favorite things is when people get all wound up, get their little whitey tidies in a bunch and clenched, is like, look, all of it is speculation, and there's so much anomalies, the parts, all of the things that you look at and you go, there's no way that the history that we've been told does that fit in it. So it exists. So there must be something wrong with where they've put it. And that's what I think is also part of what you're doing. You guys you're going through and participating in a very profound way, a positive movement for the great reveal, reveal of knowledge and realization that these things, and this is part of one of the reasons we called it the Conspiratorium tonight, because we wanted to kind of do some checks on how's it going out there in the field. How are the conspiracy theorists, who are really, as this group in particular, we are conspiracy analysts, and we analyze the theories and we go, okay, let's see what's going on. But it's interesting, and from my perspective, I've seen a distinctive shift in the energy flow where it's gotten down to where it's come to this, in my opinion. The public has been more accurate on everything over the last 5 or 6 years, the last 10 in particular, but it's been very acute the last 5 years. The public has been more correct than the experts who were guiding the public. All of the things that were done, the pandemic, the election, all of the court stuff, everything that's going on, that's chaos in amongst all of the sleeple, all of that stuff has been stirred to the point to where it's now you can't stir it anymore. It's gotten down to where people are just going, I can see this, and I'm sure you can see this. And if you can't see what you're doing and you don't see what's going on, I think you need to have another blink, have another think, because it's clearly not working. So the conspiracy theories, at least in the score that I'm keeping, it's like 20 to 0. Every one of them that has been labeled in the conspiracy category and column has been labeled as, that's just wackos. Oh, that's right wing. Oh, that's left wing. Oh, that's some other ring outside of somebody else's Uranus. I mean, there is a constant, the point is that it has been so consistently inept and annoying that it is now raising a place where people are asking questions. The most important thing anybody can do is be asking questions and never believe anything. Don't believe shit. Don't believe shit that you hear, that you see, until you check it. You don't. So
trust but verify.
I have a conspiracy question.
that was one of those axioms that I went, oh man, I'm glad he said that. And then it's gotten to be flipped on its head. It's now verify, then trust. Because you can't do any more we can't conduct or expect to have any kind of rational civil discourse and connectivity and so forth without having a rational conduct. We all kind of agree that here's the conduct. You F-bombs to whatever you think, and we're going to call you out if we need to. But that's the thing, is there's not enough of everything being talked about in a rational manner going on.
No.
I throw a regular dart over at the ufology groups. That whole place is just, they're spinning their saucers and they're trying to keep them on the stick. And it's like, okay. And they're arguing amongst themselves and they're causing havoc. And it's like, you're acting like a bunch of kids who don't realize that you've already won. The whole thing about ufology, UAPs or UFOs or EIOs, is that it's real, yes. How much of it is theirs and ours is the percentage? It's probably 80% ours, maybe more. But there's a whole bunch that's theirs too. And whoever theirs is means it's not ours.
And
so somebody else did that.
Even if there's only one that's not ours, that's enough.
Exactly.
Came from somewhere and had a mother somewhere.
Exactly. And the fact that anybody has a question about, are we alone? It's like, are you an idiot? Does it look like this could be something where there is only this singularity that exists? Forget about all the incredible quantum theories, fields, mechanics models, and otherwise amend math models and machines that are constantly cranking out all this crap out of these calculations that are just like AI. They're programmed to find what they're looking for. And they don't do it really well because they've been trained by people who don't also do it very well. And that's what I was in an AI group giving a presentation for a foundation earlier today. And they were focused on how can AI, quantum computing, and robotics be given a positive push forward, making them ethical and productive and not scary and nefarious and all this other shit, because that's what everybody hears.
Right.
So I told him what I thought. And the main thing is that people don't realize how this stuff works. And it's very fundamental that it only works a certain way. And if you know how that works and you know why we are not going to have a HAL 9000 Terminator singularity. That's not going to happen.
You sound kind of bummed out.
Well, it's part of me, I'll be honest, part of me is like, I'd like to see what that looks like. So, but my point is that to get to a model of, and this is another part of those of you who have suffered through my rants on linguistics and the importance of words being the operating system of your mind. The words that these people have used are just, I've excused it off because I'm R1. I can make the claim that this artificial intelligence name is just an example of the laziness of geeks and the creativeness of geeks. Shitty marketing. The two words don't go together, and they don't in any way, shape, or form describe what's really going on. It sounds cool. And it got into the whole transhumanism and the futurisms and all the other isms that were out going, where are we going to go? And, how dystopian or how utopian it's going to be. So the bottom line is that I will leave this nugget on the table and see who'd like to pick it up by the clean end.
Okay. Robert's about to make a messy.
The reality we inhabit and experience is from a thing called consciousness, which is the only thing that is common that we've ever seen or know of and can even use to speculate on what might be. So consciousness, without it, there is nothing. Nothing as far as we in our consciousness at this space can explain. It's not something that can be. It's like the Tao. The first line of the Tao is that which describes the Tao is not the Tao. It's not. It's beyond into that space of space within space. So that consciousness expresses itself in specific ways that is very common. We all live in a common consciousness zone. Otherwise, we wouldn't be doing what we're doing here. We wouldn't be able to have this interaction, to have these sparks of whatever the hell's popping off in my noggin, and I'm being able to share that with you guys literally instantaneously around the world, and you're around Uranus, like B is down there.
Second time on Uranus.
So, and you watch out for the Klingons. So,
oh yeah, you do, because they're both circling, looking for Klingons.
Right.
Yeah.
There's incoming, B. So my point is that consciousness
payback's going to be a bitch.
as expected, and we'll be grading your performance. So get ready. So that consciousness that we all experience, that band, there's a common band of reality of frequencies that are the result of how consciousness expresses itself. It expresses itself in characteristics. Forget about the metaphysics, the science, the theologies, philosophies, and all that stuff. Observe, what does it do? Well, it does this. It's always in motion because there's always more of it. Otherwise, we wouldn't be in the next, because we're always in the next. We're never in the now.
Namaste.
Okay. And this is a really important thing. Once you shift from right where you think you are to being in the flow of that which is, then you start getting, that's what the monks and the Buddhists and the Hindu, that's the core of the Zen, I think, is to be in that and know about it and be engaged and manage and maximize and mitigate to the maximum. So, because that consciousness it creates everything through the expression of energy. That energy is expressed in frequencies. It's an infinite field of frequencies, and it's all energy, and it's always constantly moving. There's always more of it. It's in a constant motion. That motion seems to be seeking novelty. It's like looking, maybe it's not necessarily looking as much as it's a nature and habit of it to always just keep being more. Because more is one thing I know for sure is always happening too. We all know that every second in this show right now, there's more now and there's more coming. All right, so there's the nugget. Who'd like to pick up the clean end?
Yeah, well, I'd like to say something here as usual.
I knew there'd be.
As you say, consciousness depends. Now, consciousness, do we have it contained? Is it in a box or are we open with it? Just like molecules bouncing around in the galaxy, the universe. Now, my personal opinion, we're not the most advanced civilization that's ever been here. I mean, I believe there have been multiple civilizations before us. I mean, when you consider the technologies they use to lift 1,000-ton of rock 100 feet up into the air and place it precisionally, you know, we don't even have that technology. And because it's beyond our understanding, we want to dismiss it. Boom. Doesn't happen, you know. Look, we're finding civilizations ruins under the ocean. We're finding, look at Easter Island for a start. Those statues, they're not just heads, they're full bloody torsos, you know. And I mean, weighing 1,000 tons just about dawn. Not as much, but they're bloody heavy. Now, when we talk about finding different minerals belonging to different parts of the world, that's no difference to like something from the southern hemisphere is also in the northern hemisphere and everything else. Going back, all these minerals that shouldn't be there. Well, that's nothing different from what we're doing today, because you look at it, we're moving 38,000 ton of iron ore each shipload. And we're moving it to Japan, we're moving it to Great Britain, we're moving it all around the world. Now, that's just not iron ore. We're talking about nickel. We're talking about every other mineral you can think about. What's to say somebody 100,000, 200,000 or 300,000 years ago didn't do the same thing? And you're going to find, of course, those structures they built are not going to stay. They're going to decay and rot and fall down. But those isotopes and all those minerals are still going to be in the ground. They're not going to go away. You know, I mean, so look, we're not the only ones. I mean, I've got my own theories about a lot of things, and I believe we're not the most intelligent species on this planet. That's my personal research, what I read and what I try to understand. I mean, the oceans have been around billions of years before the landmass. I like to know what actually developed in the oceans before man started walking the earth. But isn't it strange? We know more about the surface of the planet, surface of Mars, the surface of the moon, and we only know less than 10% of our oceans, and we're still running around on the trade winds. But look,
it's closer to 5%.
Yeah, exactly. Why? The question is why. Now the point is,
maybe they're afraid of what they're gonna find.
Well, henceforth the mythical city of Atlantis. Who's the same? I don't know, but I think today's society, we've got to have an open mind, an intuitive mind. We've got to look at it and pull it apart. As Professor would turn around and say, you know, it's let's get it and rip it apart and throw the turds on the table and let's get different opinions, because everybody has an opinion and everybody's opinion is valuable.
Well, that's clearly part of, the way we try to maintain our munching that we do on all these topics. But, the thing is, you got to remember that if you can't swing it, you shouldn't be carrying it.
Hey, if you want to be an archaeologist, why have a closed mind?
Did you have something to say about that, Jared? It looked like you had a thought.
You know what the hippie said when they asked him if he wanted to get up off the sofa? Namaste, brah. You guys hiding up for that one?
No, I would have said, "Where's the pizza?" Yeah, it's a
Well, I think this is maybe a good place to play this little piece that Gerald, Jim, and B saw Thursday night. But I would really like to we have a different audience on Saturday nights. It's all those people that don't have anything better to do. So, and it's always fun on the replay, but this is,
Sunday.
I'm thinking,
Sunday for me. Get it right. Sunday for me.
so, yeah, that wherever he is.
Yeah.
So,
It's in the future.
Sorry, I don't have the lotto numbers. So.
Damn it. Stupid future.
So, in the theme of the Conspiratorium, where is the place that the conspiracies? Did I just coin a new one? Hold on, conspiracies. At least wherever what those things are tossed in to the ring, and they are bantied about to test their mantle. So one of the things that I've noticed in all, there's all kinds of conspiracies. Everything. I mean, you can start at the turn of the centuries with the millennium with 9/11. Then you can talk about the bank stuff. Then you can talk about all the other scandal crap that was going on. Then you can talk about all the really intense shit that's happened over the last 6-8 years. And you look at it and you go, there seems to be a general trend. There seems to be a common theme among all the characteristics of the events if you do trends analysis, which is a really great thing to do, you see kind of where they're going and you go, I think it's kind of going that way over there. And you want to be going back to, I'll link this back to that little consciousness nugget I was dropping earlier. When you are paying attention to what's in the stream that you're flowing in, you can determine how to manage it, how to mitigate it, maximize it, whatever it might be. Could be a boat, could be a rock. But you're going to make a judgment using discernment, discretion, and you're going to be judging that information and making a call on it. That's how we all operate. But we've been told and pummeled with a completely different thought process over the last decade or two, 3 in total, but the last decade in particular, they have turned up the jets. They've mangled the language and the terms and the ideas. And they've realized that the most important thing is that language is the operating system of your mind. The words you use and how you think about them is going to determine how you react to the reality that you encounter. And I think that what's happening is we're seeing a whole bunch of pushback on that now, kind of organically. I think it's kind of it's like that kind of stuff has been added to the pot and somebody's stirring it up. And it's like, wait a minute, there might be some flavor left in this thing. So this is about an 8-minute piece, and I would like to get everybody's opinion and reaction to this piece because I think it's one of the examples of what we're seeing for not only a pushback, but kind of I think there's some bulbs going off and there's some bolts from the blue that are tapping in from above. Hold on here.
Is it audio and video?
Yeah, it's a video. Where the hell did I put it? Oh, hold on here. I'm in the wrong spot. You know how when you've got too many open things and you go, wait a minute, is that where it is or am I in somewhere else?
Well, the whole theme of the night has been Struggle Bus Plus, so
yeah,
there's Struggle Bus.
There's been a fair amount of that, right? Let's see here. Okay. So I think Rumble will allow me to play this from my computer.
The media.
What's this here? Yeah. All right. So let's see if it allows me to play the media. So remember, I think what's being presented here is a stream of consciousness that's tagging a whole bunch of events and the observation of the events into a nice little package of, it seems to be kind of looking and acting like this. Could it be that this is actually, do the entire screen? No, needed the window. Yep. I think the window will give me audio. If it doesn't, then we will change it.
Oh, I like this guy.
Jim, are you talking out loud?
Pardon? The guy who's coming up, that one right there.
Oh, that guy. All right.
Oh, yes.
What
Very
about the next?
colorful language. Very colorful language. I love it.
Yeah.
Speaks his
All
mind.
right. So I'm hoping that there's audio. Tell me, give me a thumbs up if you hear it.
The media is, by design, only
You hear it?
dishonest people.
Turn the volume up.
At least the so-called corporate media.
Volume's all the way up on my end.
And they're doing it intentionally.
We might be picking up the audio from your microphone.
You know exactly what
You might have to silence your mic.
Yep. Hold on.
what they choose to do every day they wake up. Don't believe it? Allow me to give you this.
Nah.
No,
Oh.
0. I can't hear you now either.
Hold on. So it's not going to let me play it through that.
Yeah,
Let
I
me
can
see.
hear you now.
Yep. Hold on. Let me think. Let me see if I think what I need to do is play it in a browser. I have to play it in a browser.
I find
Hold
this
on.
Rumble very temperamental, you know. I mean, it won't even allow me to use my webcam.
B, we got a load of that, StreamYard, all that apologist bullshit from Jared when he first came on.
Oh, there was no
Calling out-
apologies.
calling out-
If we used a real streaming service, it would work. But we're on the
Ooh, see?
child version.
Ooh, see, you fit right in there.
I mean, they put in the simplest, most simplex buttons, and you can use 4 options. I think we also have an option to put on AM radio, also, if you want to check.
Okay, let me try this again. I think I've got a new clean up here. Let's see if this works. Is this you guys, or is this on one of the 4 other platforms and 6 other shows we're on? The other night, Jared, at one point I had 4 images of the 4 of us across 2 monitors, and we were 4 squared. I'm just saying.
Well,
All right, can you guys see that?
Yep.
yeah.
All right, hold on. Let me move this over here. All right, now tell me if you can hear it.
The media is, by design, only the dishonest people. At least the so-called corporate
What about
media. It's all dishonest people, and they're doing it intentionally and universally and every single day, and they know
Have a
exactly what
good
they're doing.
listen and pay
Why would
attention to
anybody
what he
apologize
ticks off and the
for
language
what they
he
choose to
uses.
do every day they wake up? Don't believe it? Allow me to give you the score for how the Democrats are doing lately. You ready for this? This is called the climax.
Boy.
This week, we learned that Fauci lied about the lab leak. He lied about the gain of function. He lied about science. He lied about the distancing. He lied about the masks. He lied about the shots. He lied about the closures. Everything we know about the Ukraine war is completely made up. Seems to be an energy play, has nothing to do with NATO or protecting the country or Putin is bad. We know that Biden is certainly not fucking cogent in private. Come on. Even the Democrats know that's a lie. Why don't they apologize for saying that Biden is perfectly fine in private? They're not going to apologize because it's intentional. Every one of them wakes up and says it every day intentionally. Because they're trying to stop Hitler. Why would they ever apologize for that? Here's some things we know. The E. Jean Carroll lawsuit against Trump only existed because New York made up a law that canceled the statute of limitations just to get Trump. We know that Bragg had to use a novel prosecution idea, in other words, made up a law in order to stop Trump, and we can all see it. We know the Russia collusion hoax was the operating system of the Biden campaign from top to bottom. We know that the laptop was hoax, as I said. Most of us have figured out that the January 6th insurrection was a hoax because Republicans don't do insurrections and don't take out their guns, right? That was all a hoax. We also know that the entire committee, the January 6th committee, was corrupt, and that they, well, here's one example. Remember the claim about Trump choking the Secret Service guy in the Beast, the car that the president rides in? And apparently the Secret Service agent wanted to testify that it didn't happen, and he wasn't allowed to testify for the January 6th. No, we're not guessing whether they're a bunch of fucking crooks. We're not guessing. It's right there. Every bit of it is now public information. The January 6th committee, thoroughly corrupt. Do I think that we should get revenge on them? No. Do I think we should do reciprocity? No. I just think nobody's above the law. So I'd take that into account. How about the George Floyd hoax? How about putting General Flynn in fucking prison? How about the election security hoax, where they tell us the election is fine, and then they backed off to, well, okay, sure, there are gigantic holes, and we can't really audit any of this fucking thing. But believe us, trust us. Yeah, we trust you. Because after the Russia collusion fucking hoax, the laptop fucking hoax, the fucking pandemic, the January 6th fucking hoax, the George Floyd fucking hoax, and putting General Flynn in fucking jail, Peter Navarro is still in jail. And you think we're going to believe that your fucking election was good? Sorry. Now, do I have any proof that the election in 2020 was rigged? Nope. Do I need it? No, not anymore. There was a time when I said, you know, you're going to have to prove that. Nope. No, you don't have to prove it anymore. Every fucking part of the Democrat machine is a hoax. Do you believe that the election, the most important thing, is the one thing they're going to play straight? There isn't a fucking chance. There's no chance that it was straight. None. Not in the real world. Not in the real fucking world. In the real fucking world, there are, 30 to 50 fucking hoaxes that your news tried to tell you was real, and the same fucking people running the election, and you think that they played that straight. No chance. No chance. How about the Mar-a-Lago Boxgate bullshit? How about that inflation is under control? No problem about it. How about the border is sealed? No, it's not. It's a big problem. Wait, there's nothing I can do about it because there's nothing I can do as president. Oh, yes, there is. Wait, no, that's a fucking trick too. It looks like I closed it, but I did nothing. How about those climate change models? How about Tesla just got a low ESG score and Philip Morris got a high one? ESG is a fucking hoax. DEI is a fucking stupid idea by stupid people. Our government is run by Alex Soros's boyfriend and or girlfriend this week. Fonnie Willis case is being delayed. Jack Smith case delayed. So you're going to have to run for office, you fucking assholes, on your one obvious lawfare case that even your own fucking experts say is bullshit. And that's what you get to run on. So good luck in November, assholes. You brought it on yourself. Meanwhile, Attorney General Garland got grilled by Matt Gaetz and others, and certainly if you watched that, you thought he's crooked by the time you were done. Fauci got roughed up, as I mentioned. But what's Trump doing? Trump does an interview with Hannity. says that fentanyl and other big drug dealers kill as many as 500 people per dealer. If you're one of the big ones, he says they should be put to death. That's actually a policy change that would work, and I find it a very good idea. That's actually real. That's like a real thing. And by the way, Trump is pretty much admitting that he failed. Am I right? He failed. Now, he doesn't say those words, but he's basically saying, I tried, didn't work. Now he's got a new idea that's more aggressive. That's what you fucking do. You try something, and when it doesn't work, you say, that didn't work. Let me try something more aggressive. That's how you actually do everything that works. You got to listen to a Republican if you want to even figure out how to do anything. All right. Some people say that Biden's biggest election risk is that he's not right with the Gaza Israeli Palestinian situation, and that he's doing a terrible job on managing our relations with Israel. I'm waiting for somebody to tell me that it only looks like a terrible fucking job in public, but really, when he's behind closed doors, he's a fucking genius. He's got it all figured out behind the closed door there.
Wrong. There I am. There you are. There we is. So, gentlemen, we here in the community of geezers take pride in making sure that we get our points across in the most effective, loquacious, verbose, and rambling, God knows where it's going to go away. But we all, because of that affliction that we all share, I think we all have an appreciation for something when it's said very directly, succinctly, precisely, and colorfully. And I have to say that for me, at least, from my perspective, what Scott laid out there was extremely well done and greatly appreciated from the standpoint of the information seeker perspective. Because the one thing that is highly probable, Scott's got a lot of credibility in being able to back up what he says. So, if it was indeed an eloquent, to the point, and informative rant, what do you guys think? Let's start with you, Jared. What do you think? What do you think of what Scott had to say there?
Well, he's touching on a lot of subjects. They're all. I mean, there's different things to say about different points. So there's the Fauci thing, which I think anyone with some common sense could have. We were all saying it from the beginning, and then, that's frustrating. And then there's the other points he made. I mean, the general buzz about politics. I mean, there's some low-level puppeteering there that we could get distracted with, or I don't know. All of it was, he touched on a lot of great points, and depending on where you are with being awake or being aware, he had a lot of stuff to touch on.
Well, I think that, at a minimum, I kind of look at it from a systems perspective and go, well, there was a bunch of actionable data in there.
If you want to learn about it.
Yeah. And I think that that's part of what people are looking for is some kind of cogent encapsulation of the shit that's going down, because it is one shitstorm out there with one dumpster fire after another. But I really appreciate it. Man, I got to tell you, the whole being able to say it the way you see it and think it. You think it and then see it.
Your voice is not linked to your image.
You talking to me?
I'm talking to Robert. Yeah.
All right. I'm not seeing any.
It looks fine to me.
Yeah, I'm not seeing any issues.
Also looks fine to me too.
Yeah, Jim,
Well,
it might be, you might have a delay.
a delay. I mean, it's seconds long, if anything.
Wow.
It was. I mean, he was linked up until about 30 seconds ago, and then you, Robert. Yeah. All of a sudden, you were talking, and your mouth wasn't moving, and then you started talking, and we didn't hear anything. So,
This is a Japanese monster movie. We'll be fine.
oh yeah.
All right. Why
It
is
must
he
be
still
just coming
talking?
from our valley, eh? What do you reckon?
Yeah, something like that.
So I think one of the things that I find important and why I wanted to share this with you guys and get your thoughts on it was I think it was a cogent, rational layout of a number of, like you said, Jared, a number of different subjects, but they all kind of there was a directional theme, and that's part of what we were talking about earlier. It seems as though there is not only from what Scott laid out, by the way, for those who don't know, that was Scott Adams, who's the creator of Dilbert, the Dilbert cartoon. And he's got a daily show in the mornings that's recommended. Getting a dose of Scott in the morning is pretty interesting because he just basically goes after it and he got canceled. He was one of the crew of the canceled. All kinds of, all of his books, all of his publishers, everybody dropped him because of the thing he said about, and what he said was, you shouldn't go to a place where the people there do not like you. They don't have a peccadillo or a preference for you and who you represent. And his publisher, the newspapers, everybody canceled him over that. So he's now
that
back
statement.
What's that?
That statement. That he just made a statement and that he got canceled.
Well, he did it in the context of a show, and he was talking about this whole DEI thing and all of the ESG and the EIEIO and all the other crap that they've concocted to try to essentially do segregation. They don't realize that what they're doing was when they create all these victim groups and clubs and fraternities and foundations and whatever else they name them, they create this crap on the behalf of victims that they are not. So it's like, it's you spin the victim wheel of the week and you look through whatever you get, you go work out for, raise money, cause chaos and awareness through chaos for this cause.
You're back in sync again. I don't know what happened.
Dude.
I mean, I haven't even smoked anything yet. I mean,
Jim, just for you, Jim, let's both light up together and let's get synced.
That's right.
He was looking for really synced.
Good.
So before I lose that nugget and it rolls off the table, the change in the way in which we are seeing things has taken, it's a lot of work. I mean, the tsunami and the deluge of data that we've been inundated with for the last decade, let alone they've turned all the faucets on the last few years. But that data, we weren't schooled or had any prior experience in life to assimilate this much bullshit. One of the things I rant on about is the rise of the pissed off peeps. I think that's what we're seeing, and they're pissed off because the normies and the sleeple, even their BS meters are pegging in the red. They're going, something doesn't feel right here. The vibe, they're starting to feel the vibe. They're becoming aware of the vibe. But you're having a general cosmic push for awakening because of the energies that are coming in and the cycles that are afoot. And it is, whether you want to be in it or not, you have choice not. You are in it, you're here, therefore you are in. So it's a matter of how your awareness of it and how you respond to it, how you navigate it. So in order for this to make any sense and come to some kind of rational conclusion that can then be segued into something else, Mr. Goodall, I'd like to salute you.
Oh, yeah.
Wake up.
I was awake.
Did you hit that thing already?
hmm
Again, as an outsider looking in, I think what this gentleman actually spoke about carries a lot of foundation. You know, I mean, he spoke the truth. That's the thing. Now, I'm an Australian, and I'm an outsider looking in, and personally speaking, some people might say I don't have a right to talk about what's happening in America.
That's what we tell you here, but
yeah,
you know,
but
we're always open to crackpot or to other opinions.
But when you consider that Biden is supposed to be the leader of the free world, I'm part of the free world, and all I see is an egomaniac, a guy that doesn't even know which part of his body to wipe after he goes to the toilet, and he's you know, and I mean, guy can't even walk straight. He has to be pointed in the direction he's got to go. I mean, this is the leader. He should be leading. He should be showing the way. And I mean, I'm just keeping it basic here, you know. But
well, Terry, you thought your country was fucked up. I mean,
Oh.
you have got to see the stuff that's coming in. Is it Sky News you guys have down there, right?
oh man, we get all types. We get everybody's friggin' news here, but our own.
I get a little bit of the Sky News feeds just to see what you all are seeing down there and what's going on, and I am in shock. You guys should have owned that entire island. It should have been completely done differently if it wasn't for all you colonizers.
Well, I'm a Republican. I want to become a republic. I want Australia to become a republic, right? I mean, I want to break away from the Commonwealth. I mean, we're a multicultural country, very much so, and it's a peaceful multicultural. We don't have very little racism, you know. And the thing is, how can you people that make Australia home then have to give allegiance to the frigging king who they know fuck all about, you know? And I mean, no, we should be a republic. And let's put it this way, and I mentioned this once before, I do not understand why the military and the police are not upholding their your constitution. Because when they join the forces and they join the police force, they say we will protect the country, domestic and foreignly. You know,
well,
what I mean?
let me
and they're allowing this to happen.
Well,
right? The Biden camp abandoned their own people in the Middle East. They left billions of dollars worth of equipment there.
That was all
Right.
political.
It is. Hey, and they're allowing this genocide to happen in Palestine. All right, but the Jews, they forget. Look, I'm not anti-Jew. Don't take me. I'm not anti-anybody. But when I see something wrong, I mean, I can't see women and children, especially children, a threat. And, you know, and I mean, the Israelis think that the world owes them something from 75 years ago, and they raise their children on hate, saying, we are the persecuted, but we are the chosen ones. Hello? Come on now. I think everybody has a right to be, you know, God's chosen people. If you want to go religious on the religious sense, you know what I mean? We are all equal in the eyes of God, if you want to go in the religious sense, right? And anyone that can just sit back, being a leader of the free world, and let this keep happening. I mean, I think. So, you know,
I think I might have an idea or a solution, or not a solution, but a diagnosis to answer your question.
Go on.
And that is that if you look at the activities and the histories of the powers that be, and I'm talking about not only the the families, but the countries and the land and all of the fiefdoms and so forth that have been for what we know of the last 2,000 or so years. I'll throw this little nugget out for later. There's a good possibility that at least 1,000 of the years of our past 2,000 may have been erased.
Mhm.
And we are actually not, we are actually in 124, not 2024. Work of Fomenko, highly recommend, as well as some others. Anyway, that history that we know is basically, it's a bunch of, yeah, there might be they're headed by families, but they're basically a bunch of little corporations. And the corporations have grown over time to have all kinds of little corporations, and some of them very, very successful. The problem that I think we're seeing now in the current system is the infrastructure with which our system and society is administered is severely broken. It's broken for a whole bunch of reasons, not the least of which is longevity. And it's just, there's a whole bunch of more efficient, less friction ways to do the stuff that we need to do. And it's off the bench. It's ready to go. The transformation that we're going to see is going to be phenomenal, but that's another subject. I don't want to chase that squirrel. The point I wanted to make to you, B, is that all of the government models are basically now, through a whole bunch of variables and reasons, but they're all criminal organizations. They're not just governments and agencies and institutions and all of that. It has been hijacked and is being run more as a corporate enterprise kind of model, because the United States is not supposed to be making money and being responsible for money. It's designed to get money so that it can do the limited things that it's limited to. And that's what the Constitution and the founding documents are actually about, which is it's about the restrictions of the government, not the people, not the state.
Let's look at
right?
that turd that's on the table. Yeah, come on. Let's look at this turd look at this turd that's on the table. It's the bloody world banks on both ends that are supporting both sides of the wars. They're all in bed
they're
with
part
each
of
other.
it, yes. Yeah, they're part of it, yes.
They're all
But
in
my
bed with
point-
each other.
My point is that all of that is broken, and they're all scrambling because they don't have the answer and the solution for the transformation. They just got the shit that they've been riding for the last 400 years. Then they didn't figure out, no planning. There was no systems, no trend analysis. There was none of the thinking ahead for a minute. Is that a good idea? Could that actually work? Should we talk to some people of how we would make that happen? How would we materialize that incredible, wonderful mana that you're talking about, whether it's in health or sciences, food, nutrition, any of that stuff? Because all of that stuff that we currently have is bullshit. And it's about to get revealed as not only bullshit, but this goes back to the Conspiratorium. How many things have we in our own individual lives heard was a conspiracy, and then we found out it was true? How many of those have you been through? I personally, 15, 20 at least. And there's a whole bunch that are leaning to about to be flipped into the total category because it's coming out right and left. We're now having an access to information that is unprecedented, and being able to sort through it with a decent framework and filter system that's cleaned and calibrated, you can find that you can see what's kind of going on, really. I've been doing this shit with this AI stuff. As I was saying earlier, when I did this meeting, they were all thinking about, they had this fear, kind of, I'm unsure about it. How can this be done? And I said, look, there's energy problems, there's programming problems. And by the way, for those of you who think that AI is going to come and take your job, have you seen how AI is doing its own job? Have you checked into any of the performance lately of any of them? Google, Chat, Grok.
I'm doing it all the time, mate. I'm playing with AI. I'm playing with AI all the time. You know that. You know?
Well, yeah. I mean, look at you. I mean, you look like a gamer on some AI channel.
Yeah, how come you're not on Twitch?
Oh no, but no, actually, I think we've really gone a bit. You've gone a bit astray here because we started off with
Blame it on me, right? Okay.
no, yeah, but we originally when you started the show, we were talking about what's happening in the past, millions of years ago, or 100,000, 200,000 years ago, and how society, and we are programmed to believe what these academic people tell us, but they don't get paid to look outside the box. They get paid to do what they're told to do, you know, and that's a sad thing. I mean, I know, look, how can somebody with a brass hammer and a brass chisel perfect a nice piece of black granite that's so freaking hard and it's so perfectly flat, you can put a ruler on it and you can't even shine a bloody laser light under the ruler. We don't even have that technology ourselves today, right, to do that.
Well, Gerald, that's what you're using that tech down at your site, right?
Oh, well, we're doing a bunch of stuff. Yeah.
I mean, the idea of being able to use the tech to go, and to me, that's all AI is. Okay. Right here now, AI is nothing but an expert system that can only do what it's programmed to do or over the data it's targeted for interrogation. That's all it does.
We are so ignorant. We are so ignorant to the past. I mean, we are led to believe so much crap, and they're telling us this is how it was. Hold on, it's not how it was because we can't replicate it. We just can't, just because we can't understand it. It's out of our it's different science altogether. I reckon they would. He's more advanced than us. You don't have to have motor cars or things we know or use today. They could be using something totally different that works under a different physics. I mean, a different chemistry, you know, altogether, you know. So, and we've got to open our minds to this. We have to. If we're going to move forward, we have to open our minds.
Yeah, I completely agree. And, you know, to your point about we've gone astray, first of all, just for clarification, I was still on track and I was about to bring us back until you piped up.
Oh, right. So,
right. You interrupted his rant. Tell us more, Der Fuhrer. Tell us more, yeah?
So
back to you, Robert. Back to you.
Well, yeah, I'm just, you know, I'm trying to keep some semblance of something going on here. So, Gerald,
Yes.
We haven't heard from you about your thoughts on Scott's little eloquent, shall we say, I'm thinking.
Actually, I remember about an hour ago, Gerald tried to say, I have a conspiracy question to ask, but nobody
did. But that was way back. About Belize and Tartaria, but, you know, maybe we'll get back to
I heard you. I heard you, mate. And I thought, Robert's tuned you out.
So anyway, his video was very on point and hit all the subjects that, you know, people that are awake to what's going on. You know, he hit all of them that we all know about, and it just leads up to what's happening today. You know, they're like the Wizard of Oz, the man behind the curtain saying, pay no attention to me pulling the levers and stuff, but they don't realize that that curtain now is transparent. We're all looking and seeing everything that's going behind it. I mean, you got now from the juror, cousin of a juror, releasing a statement about how they already said and know what they want to do with Trump before his sentencing, and so that's going to be a mistrial. And you got Fauci out there on that point. He was caught on a hot mic saying, "Well, you know, if we just control them and keep hitting them with the same thing and lying to them and telling them they have to do this, and that's what they're going to do." So I mean, this keeps coming out, rolling out day by day, like you were saying, Robert, and everybody's finding out, everybody's listening. People that once was on the opposite side is starting to wake up and say, hey, wait a minute, what's going on here?
Oh, but Trump was mean. he sent out mean tweets.
Yeah.
Who in
Yeah,
the hell?
I
cares
mean,
if
what are
so-
we doing? Hey, what are we doing? We're verbally speaking our friggin' minds. I mean, what's a bloody tweet? Who gives a shit about a tweet? I mean,
So
mean,
Jim, what was, aside from being, I gathered, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I gather you were kind of, you're negative on the whole issue of mean tweets. It's not something that resonates with you, but do you have a favorite mean tweet that you really enjoyed? One of his incredible, I mean, that's the one thing about Trump, and I don't think people appreciate, I think they underappreciate it and should really enjoy more of it. He is the character. This is a reality show in reality. And if this guy isn't supposed to be here, or was planted or planned or something, it would surprise the hell out of me. But you like yourself a good Trump rant, don't you, Jim?
Yep. And I'm not getting any voice from you.
Oh,
So from me or from
Oh,
check 1, 2, check.
I hear both of you. Fine.
Yeah, I hear both of us fine too.
I don't.
you're coming through, Jim. Okay, I can hear you.
Yeah, but Robert, he's been talking now for a few seconds, and I'm not hearing any voice. And maybe in about 15 seconds, I'll hear what he just said.
ah.
And
Mike,
I
well,
think
maybe you
when-
should come.
Check your batteries in your hearing aid, Jim.
I think you should go out and come back in.
Hey, just move my screen down from where it's at, because that's what happened. I think last time when it was up in the corner. Try it. Okay, now say something, Robert.
Can you hear me now?
It was delayed a little bit.
Check,
but,
1, 2, 1, 2.
Yeah. No, it's
I would try going out and coming back in, Jim.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we can take leave of you for a few minutes.
I mean, as far as
give
the question
the
you
audience
asked,
a break.
as far as the question you asked, Jim, I would say, besides the economy and everything that Trump had rolling and going good,
Oh,
even if that didn't happen, I would still vote for him just because he pushes all their buttons.
oh, mate. Hey, he put the Chinese in their place financially. He gave American people work. He had an oil field going and putting up a bloody wall as well. But hey, I can't understand the economics. Why would somebody want to stop themselves being oil self-sufficient and they have to buy it from somebody else that just jacks up the friggin' price? But before all this happened, before Biden cut that pipeline, we were talking about his son's bloody laptop saying about the bribes that are going on to the big fella, with the oil cartel. There was a deal being struck. They had all intentions of cutting that oil bill. They had to make money off the bloody Russians and that with their oil. Mate, look, yeah, and I can't understand why people all that say, well, what's the logic of it's like somebody cutting your main artery. Well, why would you want to cut your main artery financially? Why would you? As soon as you done that, I mean, it's all suddenly everything went up in price. Everything went up in price for you guys. The oil has to be imported. So, okay, now they put the price of oil up. Now, do you really think this Ukraine war is going to make the Russians happy and they're going to keep the price down for you? No, of course not. So, well, if you want our oil, you've got to pay what we're giving. You're going to war with us. Well, you're not going to war with us, but you're supporting the war against us. Of course, that's no kind of hello. Let's shake hands and let's be mates, and we'll look after you. You look after me. No way in the world. They're going. We're going to screw you rotten financially with the oil. So therefore, we're going to stuff up your economy, because now all your goods and services. The cost of transporting food across the country, for over 300 million people. I mean, it's not cheap. And of course, who's going to pay for it? You are, the taxpayer. And that's what happens when you cut the oil line. That's going to give you cheap oil, and you can sell it to the rest of the world. as well. It'd be a a player within the oil market.
I hear what you're saying. So let me try to extract this from that. Do you think that it's the control of the energy source as to where the problem is it the control of it, or is it the use of it?
I
understand
think
what I'm asking?
Yes,
That's
I
two
personally think
separate pieces, but they're connected.
This has nothing to do with the economy. This has something to do with corruption between a very few people making deals with oil companies that has nothing to do with America. I mean, as I said before, you had your own oil field coming down from Alaska, oil line, which is going to give you all the, well, not free, but it's going to give you all the energy needs you need at a cheaper rate. I can't see the logic of getting it. Obviously, somebody got paid for it.
Well, but what you're talking about is
it's corruption. It's
right.
corruption at its highest.
And that's what I was saying earlier. I guess we didn't really, we didn't finish that point off that I was making. Think of all of the governments, all of the countries as criminal organizations. If you look at them as in their own ways, but they've been corrupted because they've been taken over by these and become these criminal organizations, either by evolutionary from a bureaucratic and just make more of it. Because was it Reagan that famously quipped, "There's nothing more permanent than a temporary government program."
Right.
And you go, well, that's because the system is designed to allow that to happen. Sounds like the system needs an update. And that kind of thing is what we're seeing. But if you look at countries, you got to realize that all of the things that you would attribute would be characteristics of a criminal organization, just lay that over the government and see what it looks like. Holy shit, there's all kinds of shit that's connected.
Well, don't you think every government that comes into power should be on a probationable period, which say after 12 months you should, or 15 months, say, into their government, they should have a referendum. Are they happy with what they actually promised to perform?
Are you talking about accountability? About some kind of measurement? Some kind of metric that's,
and they say they should. Hey, you make a promise, you stick to it, right? And make one of the main problems is, yes, I hear you. One of the main problems here.
Wait, hold on, Jim. Can you hear us?
Unfortunately.
See,
all right.
Well,
I knew it was on your end. You just had to reboot that thing.
I've lost my track now. Thanks, Robert.
Well, I wanted to ask Jared what you think about this. Do you think that there is a, aside from what Scott was saying, that he was laying out I think a pretty straight ahead case, as we all. Did Jim get his thoughts in? Yeah, Jim, you waxed on for a minute on Scott, didn't you?
Oh yeah, no, yeah. He hit every nail on the head. Some of them you're gonna need a sledgehammer. But no, he was right on point on everything, especially Fauci. Fauci should be tried in the world court, executed, have his body dragged out back over here, found guilty again, and then drawn and quartered and fed to the hogs. Is that too harsh?
No.
Well, I was gonna ask if you could clarify some of your feelings there. I detected maybe a tad on the anger side coming through.
No. Are we? Jared, you look beat.
Me?
Yeah. You're about half. Your eyes are about half staffed. That's going.
No, I'm just.
He might be cruising. He could be cruising.
Yeah.
I'm just have contact high from listening to you guys.
It's that bad, huh?
I told you that I needed to put that in the trailer there, Gerald, because I mean there is a hallucinatory addictive thing that happens here, and we're not responsible. Jared, we've been on here for 7 hours before, and those are some of our most watched shows. And it's
We don't always agree. We don't always agree with each other. We can we call each other names after that, but we're still mates.
Well, that's what we tell Terry.
Oh dear, mate. I don't know. Payback's going to be a bitch. It's going to keep saying.
Yeah, it's coming. You won't see it, but it'll be there. So, Jared, I've got a couple of other questions for you. The whole thing we talked about. Well, we were talking before about what I think what you guys are doing is on the front edge of having a significant impact on what we have been told and taught as our history, and that is going to, that's some of the coolest. It's actually some of the easiest stuff of the great reveal that's in front of us.
It's interesting
because it's tangible, and people can kind of connect to it because it is earth based. It's not cosmic based. It's not dimensionally based, and because it is there, it's tangible. And that history, when people realize, in my opinion, that the whole Atlantean lore, Lemurian, all of the stuff that not only happened in the South Pacific, but what happened in Amazon, what happened in that whole ecosystem, the Sahara. Once the Sahara they drop some serious tech on that, you're going to find a whole nother history. Siberia, whole nother one. And then, of course, the granddaddy, the grand poopah, Antarctica.
Yeah.
What's your thoughts, Jared?
What's the question?
Oh, all that stuff. When we look at all that stuff, like what you're doing in Belize, they're going to turn the table over.
Well, part of it is, so my thoughts while you're talking was that, yeah, again, there's the underwater stuff. So everything off the coast of India, off the coast of Cuba, a Doggerland, of course, Lemuria knew, was there one, wasn't there,
Japan.
when,
and Japan.
and yeah. So we have a lot of underwater ruins that change the scale and scope of humanity. But part of it also is we have everyone has a life experience. They have different modalities. So I grew up Catholic. I'm a recovered Catholic. Other people have Buddhism, or they have Hinduism. They have some other religion, some other way that there's the whole belief in paranormal and or alien. But the reality is that we have these different experiences that we all come from, but we have some other things like synesthesias. We have collective human consciousness. I mean, even 40 years ago, they were doing that test on a cork that showed during the World Football for Americans, soccer. And the reality was that they were measuring a cork, and based on the reaction of the worldwide crowd simultaneously watching, even though there's delays, they were able to measure even 40 years ago that, hey, there's something to this collective consciousness. So if we just would also not only go with the fact that we had this prior advanced past, because there's math, there's geopolymers, there's polygonal buildings, there's megalithic structures that are up to, in Siberia, 3,000 tons that we know of, let alone 1,000 tons. And the reality is that it's not just the size, it's the complexity of the construction, the foundations themselves. But I think things like synesthesias and the things like the terra preta and other kinds of man-made engineered soils indicate a period of time on the earth where collective consciousness, which we mistake for second sight and paranormal or a religious experience, the reality is that the kind of things that we download and collect individually are from being in safe mode. We are a people in safe mode. The biological technologies that we may have developed in the past, there's an estimate that 3,000 things that we've never even seen, and not just bacteria or viruses, but 3,000 creatures, species, disappear from the planet every year, which I think is probably a dramatic number. But let's just say that it's half that. We don't not only know what's not in the bottom of or what's in the bottom of the ocean, or what's in the stars on our our understanding of how old we are, how many universes or galaxies, but the mental and physical abilities that we say, oh, that's fascinating. 20% of people are synthelites, or some people have second sight, or some people have some sort of paranormal ability. The reality is that all these modalities, if you table them for their abilities and genetic abilities and the weird things, the chicken before the egg, the reality is that we have a genetically manipulative society in ancient past that had systems where we're using a cell phone or technology, which is in probability our actual connected collective consciousness, that it wasn't just in a dream state or a download. The reality is that we were probably very connected. Maybe we weren't Gaia, maybe we weren't Avatar or a single planet that all thought at once, or like some sort of collective entity. But the reality is that we're looking at just ruins or an external source, when in reality, I think a lot of the biological systems that we point out as mysteries are actually part of the resolution for us to unfragment, for those tech people like Robert, to defrag what is really not just collective consciousness. And it's like, oh yeah, I can figure out what the next stock token or whatever. I think we had a much more complex relationship with not only the natural world, but maybe even with the machines and the buildings we developed, that we're able to maybe see and read some of the frequencies and energies that we pass through as a solar system, as a galaxy, as a universe. I think we had a much more complex system, and the indicators will not just be underwater or in the ground. It's acknowledging that our genetic systems show not just signs of, oh, I think aliens made monkeys into slaves. No, it's not that simple or at all. It's that we seem to be in a safe mode of society that was once very consciously able to maybe touch, feel, and see other people consciously from a distance, and also share experiences. And all of that, along with archaeoacoustics, leads down a lot greater mystery base than just one of the things we've discussed.
How does the missing second chromosome fit into your model?
Well, there's a lot of things about humanity's genetics. Like we proved a number of years ago that direct memories, like things that we call instinct, but we proved that we did it with worms, that we could pass direct, they showed that direct memories could be passed to a child from a mother. And we have instincts like some of the weird things are like, why do we all get scared and run up basement stairs? Like, what are the things that we built into memories that we've created superstitions around? But in reality, what are the kind of things, if we were fully conscious and collectively conscious, what could we download? Could we download other people? Are those junk genes right now actually part of a collective consciousness way of storing? If we're data sets, what if the very idea, what if the sliver of truth in reincarnation in Buddhism, or just the idea of reincarnation, is that what if catastrophically a body is lost, but what if collective consciousness meant that all the chromosome sets, all the things that we call our junk, what if we were able to download those back and manifest, not like a mummy? Maybe that's just a memory of, well, we got to keep these bodies on ice. Well, now we just got to keep them stored. Well, now we just got to store some DNA. But in reality, what if we had the ability to reincarnate people, not because it was a religious experience, but because we were able to keep track of all the ones and zeros that made up an individual, and we were each other's backup, that the collective biological system, a technical biological system, it's not just, oh, those are trees, or maybe they're just errant programs that haven't been programmed and this is what they default to. So I don't think from viral to genetic, we're and again, we can only, somebody said it earlier, we can only consciously comprehend or have words for something that maybe we put a word to, and I don't think we have all the words to comprehend the complexity of the human experience or race.
Exactly, and that's one of the things. You're right. We did mention that earlier. Is the idea is that Language is the operating system of the mind. Language is made up of words, symbols, sounds, sentences that create ideologies, theologies, philosophies, and all of the E's and the isms.
Yeah.
All of that is just ways in which, from my perspective, ways in which the human experience that's been documented and the one that we are experiencing is been delineated because through all these different belief systems, whether it's metaphysical or physical, ethereal or material. The Ethereum is really where everything is. In my model, it's consciousness. And consciousness expresses itself as energy. That energy expresses itself as frequencies. From there, everything else falls out. The materium that we experience comes out of that field of frequencies. Ergo, it is a part of always the one, because it is from the one thing that made the stuff. So there is no seeking it, it's realizing it. And when you look at the constructs of and the confines of what we experience biologically, physically, with this mentalized meat suit, there's a mind inhabiting this Uber, if you will, that we're taking on this current iteration. All of it is speculation from there on out. It's whatever data you got. It's what can you do, any pattern recognition? How efficient are you at doing that and seeing what matches what? Because the shit that we are bombarded with now, for all the possibilities of the future, from the nano to the alien and everything in between, from the terrestrial to the celestial. All it takes is one big blast from our sun, and we are toast instantly. It doesn't care what your agenda is or was. It doesn't care who was holding on to what when that happened. It's going to take out everything equally.
Who's the downer now?
Right. And but I bring you good tidings and of future joy.
It's time for you to take another hit, man. Lighten it up.
You know, I could actually just really take another hit, and
that's it. I'm giving up on life. That's it. It's over. It's done.
I think you need a bowl, not just a hit.
So anyway,
be an optimist. Come on now. Be an optimist.
Wax on as I do, and I appreciate all the indulgence, because all y'all know that all y'all is going to do it too, because you have and you do, and that's what it is. So I just took mine, and I am more than happy just to kind of turn it over, and maybe I should probably toss another nugget out there.
Those are brown nuggets.
No, he's calling it. He's going to dump on the table.
Yeah.
Well, it's along the lines of what we just watched. Where the hell did you go? Oh, it's over here. And it's actually an update and an addition to what we just heard. Because the other thing that I think is important is the realization that the shit that you're seeing, there are patterns to it. So in the last 4 minutes here, I think you should be able to hear this. He did a nice job laying out all of the hoax shit, because I got to tell you, the hoaxes are the conspiracies, and that's what we're doing tonight. We're tossing the conspiracies into the conspiratorium, and we're spinning them around. And I think Scott's done one of the best jobs so far of laying out the first part, but he's got a couple of other things here that I think you'll also find some resonance with.
And Biden just authorized cross-border attacks on Russia because he hadn't yet figured out the dumbest fucking thing you could ever do. And he thought, oh, how about that? Thing that DC Drano points out on X, you said Tucker and Bongino got booted from Fox. Alex Jones owns $1 billion. InfoWars raided. Rudy Giuliani owes $100 million. Steve Bannon and Peter Navarro are being imprisoned. Trump has 34 felonies. He's banned on all social media. CFO of APEC Times was just indicted. James O'Keefe is gone from Project Veritas. OAN was banned from all major satellite networks. Parler was booted off their AWS cloud server. I think they're back, by the way. Elon's being sued and investigated by the feds for everything. And almost every alternate elector has been indicted in the blue states. So when you see it all, it's time to get out of the wanting phase and make sure you're in the deciding phase, because we don't have to live like this. And Steve Loves Ammo, which is a great account. If you ever want to increase the security at your house, start a social media account and give yourself the name Steve Loves Ammo, except put in your own name. You know whose house I would never mess with? Steve's. Do you know why? He loves ammo. Say no more. Say no more. I'll be robbing your neighbor this time, and maybe not the neighbor right next to you. I might go a few blocks away. I'll rob the neighbor who doesn't have enough ammo and doesn't even like it. Anyway, Steve says, another reminder on how dangerous the United States of America is. And he mentions Peter Navarro and Steve Bannon and Mark Meadows arrested for contempt and Hunter Biden. Oh, but then you look at the other side. Hunter Biden defied a subpoena, not arrested. Eric Holder defied a congressional subpoena, not arrested. Lois Lerner, same thing, not arrested. Hillary Clinton, not arrested. We don't have to live like that. We really don't. But America First Legal, Steve Miller's brainchild there. Here are the successes they've had in 1 week. So they are now becoming the primary mechanism by which Republicans are fighting back against the lawfare and basically the excesses everywhere. So in 1 week alone, they sued the DOJ to compel the immediate release of Matthew Colangelo's government records, showing whether he was basically coordinating and orchestrating with Alvin Bragg to get a political enemy. That's exactly what I want to see. Thank you. Yes, if we have some suspicion that Colangelo took a demotion just to get Trump, and it was all organized at the top, yes, I'd like to see their communication, because it certainly looks guilty. You know, they're innocent until proven guilty, but the indications are there's a crime. So yes, I'd like to look at that. They also launched 3 investigations into the Alvin Bragg for abusive prosecution of Trump, and they want his communications with the White House. They launched investigations into the improper involvement of the Biden DOJ and the Manhattan's, blah, blah, that's similar. Filed a formal request with the state of New York Ethics Commission for the Unified Court System for the release of Judge Merchan's financial disclosures. Now, normally, I would say that's way over the line, right? If a judge says something you don't like, you don't ask for their financial disclosures, even though apparently there's a legal process which you can. But in the case where his daughter is benefiting financially, and he somehow magically got 3 Trump cases in a row, you know, defying all statistical odds, yes, under those conditions, I want to see his financials. Will there be anything bad there? Probably not. But it is a situation where you definitely want to look. You definitely want to look. And then this is my favorite, filed a EEOC complaint against Alvin Bragg's office for race and sex discrimination in hiring and recruitment. And this is based on the fact that they're heavy into DEI. So they basically say they're going to look at your race and your gender to decide if to hire you, which is very illegal. And so America First, America First Legal's going after them. Oh my God, I love that. I feel like just because they're racking up some victories, that you can feel some optimism. It feels like mutually assured destruction is doing its thing, which it needs to. I mean, sometimes you have to do demolition before you do building. We might be in a demolition phase.
Yes.
That doesn't mean it's bad.
Yes. So what are your thoughts on Scott's additional stuff about the lawfare and what he sees now and what's coming? Jared, what do you think?
Well, I'm going to have to go down under on this one because the entire world banking system, the world monetary system, the Federal Reserve, the dialogue of what puppet is running the country is a real, I think,
It's a rabbit hole and cavern.
well, I think it's a real low point conversation if we start discussing, which wrestler do you love? Do you like Hulk Hogan or do you like The Rock? It's not, it's fantasy. And so if we're going to have a real conversation about, the clandestine powers that be that run the system, and I mean, wouldn't it be great for us to all sit here and dialogue for 30 minutes, whatever, an hour about, oh, I want Trump, I want Biden. It's like this entire system. I mean, let's look at it here. If you've been not just a senator in the House of Representatives, something not known by a lot of people is that depending on the state you're from, when you're elected, you get $3.5 to $9 million as a discretionary fund to do whatever you need to do to run your office. Now that is in addition to your salary and your permanent health care and everything else. So you're talking about a system, the House and the House of Representatives and the Senate. You're talking about a system of people who are, the idea of the founding fathers and the Federalist Papers is that you would sacrifice, which means you're going to go into office, you're not going to really make any money, you're going to come out of office and owe less. I mean, there are whole Reddit groups following Nancy Pelosi around, and they all they're worth millions more than they were when they got elected. So we're talking about an entire governmental system run by people who are self-serving.
Do you think that is born of the system or the people that are in the system?
I'm going to quote Thomas Jefferson: people get the leaders they deserve. And the reality is, vote them out. Vote a different system. They're not doing it. And, so if we get stuck, so just to come circle, if we get stuck like everyone, not shining a light on the manipulation of the general sheep's conversation, they're talking about which grass do you think is browner or greener or whatever. The discussion of Biden or Trump doesn't change shit. Trump did the lockdowns, for fuck's sake. I mean, this entire system, we're talking about, let's blame Fauci. That in itself is a distraction. Other people, not Fauci, determined that this is what they were going to do. Like that global group that went through the whole lockdown scenario months before they did a lockdown. It was on YouTube. They were proud of it. I mean, we could digress into, having that conversation. Which wrestler do you like? But the reality is the bigger conversation, which is frustrating, and I'm beating around the bush on it, is that it gets us shut down. It gets our channels blocked. It gets shadow banning on YouTube. And the reality is that we can't really address the actual issues, really. And so, let's talk about Trump. Let's talk about Biden. Yeah, whether or not he pooped himself on another stage.
I completely agree with what you're saying, but I have a slightly different delineation on it. I think
I'm
that what's
just crappy about it.
Well, yeah, I could totally get that. I hear the whole point about the political aspect of it, and then that's fair, and that isn't really the point that I think that Scott is making. It just happens that the data that he's presenting trends in that direction towards how can you believe all of this shit? Well, there's a way that you can, and the way that it is. And he just went through and just knocked each one of them off. And you go, okay, well, why is it there? First of all, to be knocked off. It's there because it was carefully crafted and curated and done so that it's crap in the conversation that's been added. It's what to think, not how to think. And that is in the plethora, the nonstop tsunami of data that we're getting inundated with makes it difficult to sort through that stuff. So when I see, for me, what I think is a directionally radar, finely tuned analysis or statement of the state of the system, here's kind of what's going on. Then I go, okay, well, that makes some sense. So I'm more interested in what he's calling out is methods and methodologies and intentional directional manipulation and mangling of what I was asking about. Do you think it's more people than the system? I think the system, if we wanted to reset anything, we go back to and start with the system that we started with, like you were talking about, and take each one of those lines of all of the existing articles, the amendments, and everything, and have the Congress sit down and go into session purposely to read through it and affirm as they go through, and just go, yep, we all agree with that. Okay, affirm. So that anything then that violates that, whatever that is in the Constitution, immediately gets chucked as it's examined and reciprocated, whatever is needed to make recompense for some of the nasty, stupid, incredibly horrid shit that our government has been documented to have done. It's in their own documents.
Can I throw my 10 cents worth in?
Oh shit! Here we go. You ready?
See the shit I have to put up with. You know, I'd be questioning things like
let it rip, B.
Okay, when a person takes power, you know, I mean, not just Biden, but most presidents, you know, when they become a president, their net worth is excess amount of dollars. But when they come out of government, they're tenfold richer as a public servant wage. Now, I don't know. I mean,
that's like because of what I was saying earlier.
It sounds like a little bit of inside trading going on in here. You know,
they become corporations over time, and the governments are run by the corporations.
That's why I've always said corporations should not be. It should be illegal for corporations to support a political party.
Well, it is. It is.
Well,
it
should be against the law.
But they have figured out ways to manipulate and mangle the damn thing so they can get away with it. That's all the bullshit that's going on. Do you want
the pricks here in Australia do? They've got a magic way of doing it. Rather than just donating millions, what they do is say, okay, when you come out of politics, we're going to put you on the speaker circuit, and we're going to pay you $35,000 for 1 hour speech, and we'll send you around the world in every country talking about your political views and financial views about how the economies of the world should be working. 1 hour speech for $35,000. Now they could end up doing something like about in a period of 3 or 4 years, not just a book on the matter, but they also maybe doing 1,000 dinners.
But B, you're talking about just symptoms of a system that is designed to not have accountability and transparency, so that shit can be seen when it happens.
If a dumb shit like me can see it, I mean, why can't other dumb shit see it? You know what I mean?
Right. I mean, talking about dumb shits, I'm sure, Jim, you've got something to say about this.
Yeah, speak up, Jim.
I resemble that statement.
Come on, Jim.
So what do you got to say for yourself, Jim? Do you think that last bit that Scott talked about, which was again laying out the shit that's going on and the characteristics and the trend directional stuff that it's doing, do you think that that he was again spot on like it was on the first part?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the only way the system's going to be fixed, it has to be destroyed, and we got to start from scratch. I mean, the IRS. That's a wonderful organization.
It's illegal. It's
How about
illegal.
yeah, that's why it should be gone. I bet the FBI, Department of Injustice. There's so much corruption in D.C. The only way to rid us of the cancerous infection is to be drastic, to be dramatic, and the federal government has to shrink. It's either going to shrink by World War III, plus the jab that a couple of million people got. I think 2024, assuming that we're still here a year from now, is going to be the most significant year in the history of modern man. Yeah, of modern man. Yeah. There's so many things happening. We may not have to worry about a lot of the crap that we're worrying about, because we don't know what the Earth what's going to happen to this solid ground that we call Earth when the poles shift. And they don't know if it's going to take 100 years or if it's going to take a day. The ramifications for changing the magnetic flux around the entire Earth, it's going to affect the plates. We're going to have earthquakes. We're going to have volcanoes. At least that's what a number of geologists and volcanologists have said. But mankind, as we know it, really, the Cro-Magnon and the civilization, the mankind, Homo erectus, however you want to put it, from that point forward, may have experienced the 12,000 year shift, but it's going to affect everything. And because the magnetic pole for decades has moved a quarter of an inch a year. Well, then all of a sudden it was a quarter of a mile a year. Now it's moved 100. Last time I looked at it, it was 175 miles where it was at the beginning of the 21st century.
From what I've seen, it's accelerated to roughly 40 miles a year. So, and you got the North Pole heading over. It's crossed the Arctic, and it's headed to Siberia. The South Pole has already left the Antarctica. It's out now in the South Pacific, or the South Atlantic. And there's some interesting math that's been done about where that shift will occur. And it looks like there's going to be a significant, and this is, I mean, should we go ahead and test our bounds on the whole climate change discussion?
Well, do we stick our head between our legs and kiss our asses goodbye now?
Do we dare cross into the catastrophism concept and models? I mean, is it even possible to toss in a little planetary astrophysics and cosmology? I mean, I'll start from the inside. One of my things is the nut of the nugget.
How many years does this cycle happen?
Well, we're getting there. Hold on. So the nut of the nugget is it's always in. You want to get to that nut of the nugget and then work your way out from there. Don't take it, all the shit that you're given it wrapped in bows and nice little cards and flowers and shit and chocolates. Oh, take the chocolates. So I recommend the chocolates. That information is all of that bullshit you start right at that nut. So if you're at the nut of the nugget, I will say this. My thinking is that from a cosmology perspective, we are in something akin to the electric universe. There is an electricity and a magnetism in the model of creation that is consistent, seems to be responsible for just about everything. Our planet, we do not have an iron core. We have a plasma core. And that plasma does what plasma does, which is it makes more of itself. Plasma is that, some physics call it the fifth element, right? So we have a plasma core, we have an expanding Earth, we have an Earth that also has hollow sections. So we do have an inner Earth, but we are on a planet that's expanding. It's constantly moving and growing because that's what the universe does. Everything expands. Everything is constantly expanding. So if that is indeed true, the why and the how, okay, speculate all you want. The observation is that's what it does. It's constantly expanding. Consciousness expanding. Look at us geezers. Look at how much expansion we've all done to ourselves.
Yeah, I've lost a lot of weight.
Jim's going the other direction.
He is looking pretty spry he is the grand poo of the poo paws geezers here. He's got the longevity certificate and deference. I mean, whenever he has to share something, we just shut up and listen.
Richard, I got a question for you. Well, how do you know? What's your basis for knowing that the Earth has a plasma core?
Richard, who? You mean
Robert.
me?
Yeah, he meant Robert.
Pick another. Hey, look, pick
Dude.
another dick on this panel and answer it.
Dude, I've been called a lot of things, and most of them are shortened to dick. So what's my basis of making that claim?
So here's the thing: you've painted a picture, you have an idea, you're going with a stream of thought, but how do you know it's a plasma core?
I don't know it's a plasma core, and nobody knows what the core is. The
Okay.
speculation.
Well, why do you
Hold
freaking call
on.
it then?
Well, that's what I'm trying. That's what I'm getting to.
But you stated it. You stated.
I said I think. I said I
every
think.
theory.
Yeah.
Not when you stated it in your statement. You put it as one of your factual portions of again. You're putting forward an idea, but I think it's that is definitely a speculative point. That is a major part of the theory that you're trying to put forward about ever expanding Earth. When we do have serious indication that it chews itself up, but
you mean entropy?
Well, we literally have cycles of depths of. It's not just accumulation. It does seem to be that the crust seems to cycle itself a bit. If we want to actually even say that that's theoretical, also. But anyway, it seems like part of your core point was that I'm not trying to just take it apart. It's just more of
Please do. I just let me give you this, and then you can take it apart from here.
Okay, Dick.
The reason that I speculate, the reason I speculate that it is plasma, is that if I use plasma as in the model, then it explains everything.
So it's a central point.
The crustal movements, the expansion of the planet, the inner planet. I mean, all of the. In fact, I've got to look at this because it hasn't been debunked from what I've seen. But recently, they say they found more water inside the planet than covers it.
Where did you get your model from, Robert?
Which model?
What you're talking about, the core of the Earth and everything else. You said you're talking about your model.
Yeah, we could be here for hours if I had to bring that shit up. I'm trying to summarize it.
I'm just being a prick. That's all. Sorry, carry on.
Yeah, you're filling that role quite nicely. Thank you very much. You're 20 quids on the way, and Bitcoin. But the reason that I say it that is what I think it is because it explains everything. It explains all the anomalies we see, all of the things that planetary physics guess at, and have some metrics and spectrums and shit that they've modeled for their metrics. That is not all that isn't. See, that's the thing. The consciousness, going back to even making maybe my point, consciousness is all that there is. That's where everything comes from. Without it, we wouldn't be conscious. So whatever that is, however it's defined, the whys and everything, whole bunch of speculation on that, because apparently there's no instruction booklet that came in multiple languages for us to follow. What's the button? Where do you turn it on? Where do you turn it off? None of that exists. We know how it works, but that's all we know. And that's why consciousness is called the hard problem in all sciences, because it doesn't matter if you're doing material sciences, physics, astrophysics, metaphysics. As soon as there's an observer, then the experiment is affected. Ergo, consciousness is apparently extremely powerful. Quantum computing doesn't work unless it's isolated from all variables. Environmental consciousness, nobody knows when it's going to go off. Nobody knows when the result's going to come back. And the results are maybe 60, 70% accurate the first time, because it's a flash of data analysis and interrogation. And it's a totally different model. So that doesn't work. You can't, we don't have the physics, and this is in my opinion, to accommodate that. Our physics, our grit model, based on billiard balls knocking around, is not the right physics to do this, to do the next gen of what we can actually do, which is, back to your point about frequencies. All of the different iterations that we seem to experience, what we put in the paranormal category, I think are, I've called them temporary hallucinogenic empirical experiences. So whether they are real or not is only known by the knower, and only what the knower knows can be known. All right, that's just good old Greek Plato guys, right? Hermes. So it's only what you know that makes a difference to what it is that you think about, whatever it is, because that's all you know to know what is. Now, didn't
Bill Clinton use that defense?
God, not in hell.
I don't know what your definition of is, but what is certainly the shit that we experience. And so, Jared, you started this with talking about having a contact high, and because you weren't, so you tossed some squirrels out there. So thank you very much.
Yeah, no, don't try to point the finger at me. I just want to know how well water and plasma work together. That's all.
Water and plasma. Well, water is an expression of plasma. That's why it can't be photographed. That's why the molecules are elusive. That's why the fluidity of the way that it manifests from the frequencies is they're having a real hard time capturing water and explaining it. But magically, it goes through just literally all the different states that we know of matter. The billiard ball, the grit model. If we looked at all that shit as frequencies and we went, oh, that's a set of frequencies going off. That's what's going on. Everything is in motion. Everything is a wave. Nothing is solid.
Can plasma be frozen? Can it hit 3 states?
Plasma is basically the energy form of the cosmos. Plasma is the essence of the energy, and then it has these properties like magnetism, which is really what gravity is. Gravity is not gravity, it's magnetism. It's not centrifugal force, it's toroidal. It is a cyclical, basically a Mobius strip of itself, of frequencies that float through the infinite field. It's just a total, once you think about everything being in flow, never stasis, the system state changes, has all kinds of little dials and meters and screens that you can see what's going on. And that's how you look at the frequencies, and you see all the shit manifesting in frequencies. Just like this shit show going on right now. That
All I
wake you
can
up,
think-
Jared?
all I can think about is what Shakespeare said in Hamlet: less substance, more matter.
Less talk, more do.
It's like all I can picture too is Monty Python in the scene in The Life of Brian, when a man has a hammer, like the prophet on the podium, and if that hammer is lost, I'm like, that's what I'm thinking about while you were talking. I was like, well, we're gonna come to a point.
We did, and thank you for
just a
bringing that
flesh
home. I
wound.
appreciate that.
Wait, what was that?
What's that, Jared?
I said I was thinking the other Mighty Python. It's just a flesh wound.
Yeah.
I'll just keep going. Get over here. I'll bite
No, it's
you.
not. No, it's not. Yeah. So I just think when, pulling back around, I think that when you're going to throw out a model, like, okay, where are we going? I mean, like, what's the use? Where are we with our consciousness? What can we do with whatever the center of the, whatever the earth or whatever we're made out of? There clearly was a point where in the fabric of the sciences that we were aware of consciously, we were more conscious, we were more connected, we did have collective consciousness. So what were we doing with it? How were we programming or dealing with the things that, again, maybe it's true, 3,000 creatures and things die a year that we don't know anything about. We're still discovering species of animals and plants and systems.
Jared, you mentioned that earlier. I'm sorry to interrupt. And you know that yeah, well, it's my pleasure actually. It's your
Please,
pleasure.
Dick, continue.
It's actually the pleasure's all yours.
You're the big dick host. So.
Yeah, you're right. So remember you were talking about the whole it was about the bullshit in the archaeology. Shit.
You mean the substance and the matter?
No, it was on the archaeology. It was something to do with the idea that the stuff that we're seeing isn't what it's not what we've been told, number one. And number two, what it really is actually been known for a long time by a whole bunch of people. And I'm finding an interesting trend in that the public, i.e. geezers and groups like this having a gab fest, are actually more accurate and dependable in analysis and trends than the experts are.
Well, that's an easy
because
thing to do, probably.
Well, because we go back to, we were talking about consciousness, right?
Yeah.
Where you were somewhere in the spirit realm and you were sharing it sounded like a spirit animal moment.
Oh. Was there a question?
Well, I was trying to tag you to pick up and keep going. It was a toss. It was a toss to you, Jared.
DNA and how
Robert always has a question.
Jared.
He never stops frigging talking. I mean, have you noticed this?
Why is he still talking?
I'm just trying to pass it on. That was a toss. Thank you. Okay. And over to you, Jared.
Okay.
I tell you, it took a long time for Jim to get used to Robert. Jim used to go, God, does this man never shut up?
That's if a man has a hammer and he gives that hammer away.
Yeah. Well, Robert likes to have control of the buttons, see? So
yeah, and I'm down with you, Jared, on that one. Rumble sucks for button control. The only good one they've got is I can kick somebody out at any time I want. But Zoom and the other guys, StreamYard, they got other buttons you can push. You can mute for a while. You can hide them for a while. You can throw them backstage for a while.
Yeah.
And that's kind of fun if you want to do this kind of shit. But I think we were talking about consciousness, and you were talking about something that had something to do with your experience or thought about consciousness as it related to something to do with how we were using it now, but was there a different way back when there was, is it an evolution? Is it because I think that there's been several iterations of advanced global civilizations. I think that they've come and go. They've come and gone. Come and goed. Come and goed.
Goad.
It was the greatest goat of all time. But they've gone and they've ebbed and they've flowed throughout. I think it's at least somewhere around 500,000 years. And it seems to be very interestingly tied to Sitchin's Sumerian tablet decodes about the time frame of when these Nephilim or Anunnaki came and they said, hey, I need some shit for my planet. You guys got it. We need a crew to get it. We're going to make
put his head in his hands.
We're going to take the locals. We're going to take the locals and we're going to help them along to do our bidding. And we're going to use them to do what we need to do. Now, according to the Sumerian tablets, that was around 440,000 years ago. There seems to be both organic and inorganic civilizations that we've found, or at least have found hints of around the world. We were talking earlier, South Pacific, Amazon, the Sahara, Siberia, Mesoamerica. I mean, we've milked all of the Middle East pretty well. There's still a lot of stuff out there, I think. But the stuff that's under
coal seams.
But the stuff that's under the South America and Amazon, Sahara, Siberia, and the Grand Poopah, Antarctica.
Maybe there's a reason why it got buried.
Do you think that? Do you think this stuff, like they're coming up with Göbekli Tepe and Karen Tepe and all of those, and the stuff that Jared and Jim are working on down in Belize, all of the new scientific data, every time Hancock said it.
Somebody shut their dog up.
I don't know who that is.
That's our dog upstairs. Jane's got it.
Yeah, okay.
Oh.
So Hancock famously quipped, everything just keeps getting older. We are one turn of the spade from discovering something that's going to completely change everything that we thought we knew.
All right. Well, so look, on that note, if the point is, if the musing is, how old are we? One, not to be a stickler here, but Sitchin made up a bunch of stuff. I have a podcast about it with one of the archaeologists. For all the Anunnaki stuff, and there's the Nephilim and all of that. But outside of that, Sitchin translated. He made up. Does everyone know what a cylinder seal is?
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
yes.
So it's like a wax marker on an envelope for anyone listening. And so a cylinder seal is not a story. So Sitchin took a bunch of cylinder seals that had symbols on it and literally made up. So if everyone out there, please trust but verify that if you go out and look for the cuneiform tablets, which there are tens of thousands that have not even been translated, hundreds of thousands, but of what's been translated, there is zero translation of any cuneiform tablet that Sitchin based his initial work on. It's all made up. It's entirely, he's like one of the early charlatans. But the thing is, if we're going to talk about the history of humanity, I think for everyone, I'm a huge Michael Cremo fan because he spent what was going to be 7 months. Instead, he spent 10 years documenting and going back to paleoanthropological finds that showed human and anatomically correct modern human in the Red Crag, which is in the Mediterranean. So we're talking 5 and 6 million years. We're talking Table Mountain in California. We're talking human skeletal remains at 60 million years. There have been finds at 100 and 120 million years. So when we start talking about everyone has to go down the rabbit hole of Sitchin so you can find out that he made up a bunch of crap. And the Sumerian, the pre-flood kings list is real. They have a pre-flood kings list. They have a post-flood kings list. That is real. And the Bible talks about old people who lived to be 1,000, like Methuselah. Jared is the second oldest person in the Bible. He lived to be about 997. That's who I was named after. But the point is, those numbers match a lot of the post-flood Sumerian kings. The post-flood kings, they still lived 5,000, 1,900. They had all these different numbers. And so that's all great, but that's all dynastic. That's all 5,000 years old. So here's the first thing we got to do when we say, how old's humanity? How old's human history? And what if these megalithic 3,000 ton blocks go back to that society pre 50,000 and go back to Tepe, which is maybe 36,000 years old based on carbon dating. And there's 6 Tepes and there's more Tepes, and I'm sure there's more things we're going to find. But then we have those gold nano machine parts that were found in the Ural Mountains that no one ever talks about from the 90s, and they look to be ancient in layers of earth up to 220,000 years old. So what are we doing then if we're not going to acknowledge paleoanthropological finds of human remains that are 5 to 60, 30 to 60 to 120 million years old? We have a vast amount of human history that we are not aware of. And of the times and of the remnant technologies that are left, we have synesthesias, we have second sight, we have things that we call paranormal or religious miracles. The reality is that it's not that miracles don't happen, but again, we have biological indicators. Is it chicken before the egg? If you program something biologically, you can program it to exist, and then it has eggs. You don't just have a duality. In no case of any biological example do we have one day I could make an egg and I could make a baby, but then I just made eggs. We don't have any examples like that. And we just accept over and over that there's been no genetic programming, like we create programs for computing and apps for phones. We don't think of a time on Earth that we were so advanced. We made species, we made viruses, we made creatures. We think it's just some mystery that we suddenly have creatures that have eggs and then make things. So we have, I think, obvious examples, and then we have complex examples that we have millions of years of history. And that makes a lot of people uncomfortable, because at what point did 1,000,000 years ago or 100,000 years ago or 500,000 years ago, how about 60 or 100 million years ago, we had a society that did go to Mars, that did go off world, that did leave the planet. And so maybe there are aliens, but the worst case about that is, what if we're really just having forefathers visit us, and in the state we're in, the warlock nature of what we are now, we're not experiencing everything. And again, because of our limited cognitive ability, we're not the smartest monkeys anymore. And so our comprehension levels, we keep getting distracted down these rabbit holes like Sitchin. It's a bunch of crap. 2, we have these millions of years of human history that it's uncomfortable to talk about, because we can't fathom past loinclaws and Moses and Sumerians and maybe some reptilians, and then we go straight to aliens, and here we are. And I'm bitching like a good old geezer that's been on for months.
You are
I'm
dropping
loving it,
some
man.
nuggets, man.
You're
So
hot, man. That's good.
That was great. So let me toss this nugget at you. So what's your thoughts on the Mars hypothesis, that we originated on Mars and we're a colony there before colonizing the Earth?
You know what's interesting then about solar history is, at what point would the Mars environment have held an atmosphere for humanity? And there's a book, and I'm going to make everyone hate this who's listening or going to listen, but I had a good friend of mine read a book about the human eyeball and how the human eye theoretically should have been developed the way it is on Mars, not here. And so there's a whole book about the biology of the human eye, specifically a lot of really interesting facts about how it would have been suited more for that environment. But what would that environment have looked like then a few million years ago? So if we have anatomic, so let's just extrapolate one thing. We for sure factually have paleoanthropological human remains that are at least 30, 60 million, let's just say 60 million years old. So would it be great to look at a solar model that twists us back 60 million or 100 million years to what did Mars look like? And what did some of those other planets look like within our system, and were they able to maintain a version of anatomically correct and or biologically probably passing for human, some similar some facsimile of
Some
what we are
hybrid.
now, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and whether we started on Mars or whether, and again, that's an old school model. It's like a we all say it, we all think of it, but it's like the in search of model. It's the old model. We barely got the idea of flying saucers and aliens. We sure the hell don't have the acceptance or idea that we were once more advanced than we are now. So if we already left the planet, if we already flew off this planet, if we already did colonize Mars, if we did start here and colonize Mars or other planets or the moon or whatever, satellite planet around some other planet, we don't know, and nor are there apparently remnants enough. We haven't discovered any, right? We're always looking for something on Mars from the rover, like they're going to actually like they're going to share the actual live feed with us, like we're really seeing that. But
so do you think there are Mars bases and there's folks there? Do you think that we're
there's
actually doing our thing up there?
there's no way we're going to know. I mean, if half of what Jim has had to say about, I mean, this really falls into the Lockheed Martin Skunk Works commentary that Jim, I'm sure, has aired out here about how far ahead they are with us in technology. I mean, what if we think that it's 50 years, or if we're beyond what we can imagine, what Jim can imagine, and that would mean that, yeah, the capability of bringing ET home. I mean, the reality of clandestine or secret world governments already, and let's rewind. There are organizations, religious organizations, that have clearly systematically, take the Mayans, take others, that have clearly burned anything they considered heretical. And the reality is that any advanced technology or anything that would have not indicated that the story that is shoved down our throats about the human race being 10,000 years old at best and 5,000 years old because of the biblical look at it, the reality is that if you're finding technologies in ancient times within the last 2,000 years, it's very likely that they're either deleting or hoarding that information. So now we have an organization and a system of education that disallows, for the most obvious points of our real history, our real experience. Why would you hide that if you're not still obtaining advanced information, genetic information, not just devices, but solid state things that we don't think of as hard drives anymore? Again, biological systems, all of it is up in the air. So whether it's Mars that we're from, or whether the question is how many dead advanced solid state satellite systems that some prior advanced human race sent through that we think is a comet or an asteroid, or again some sort of a technological system that we don't recognize as technology. And we imagine, this is a dialogue I want us to break. I want everyone to break free from the paradigm that, oh, we started on Mars. It's like, what if we just left here 50 million years ago and also went to Mars and then also went further, and then now we come back?
Totally plausible, but that's the thing is, I mean, there's so many different ideas and so many different options about. In fact, while you were talking, it made me remembered. Sidonia guy, what's his name? Robert? No, not Morningstar. The guy that did the Sidonia videos of Face on Mars, Richard Hoagland. Thank you.
Oh,
Richard.
So
I've been on
everybody
Hoagland.
knows. Yeah,
I've been on
everybody knows
Hoagland's show.
Richard, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
So I heard him one time on an interview, and he was asked what he thought about Lucas and Spielberg and Roddenberry, and where did these guys come up with this stuff? Do you think it was channeled? Do you think it was Council of Nine? And what could it be? Where did they get this stuff from? And Richard came back and he says, Oh, there was definitely some feed from somewhere. And they said basically Star Wars is our past and Star Trek is our future. And that's why they were made the way that they are. So when you think about it from that perspective, it goes back to something else I like to do with just data interrogation and re-examination, which is I'll look at history as myth and myth as history, and then I'm going to go down that path and see what happens, what you stumble over. But the whole idea of look about that information being given to humanity at that time, let's say that it's plausible. Star Wars is our history. Star Trek is our future. What is Star Wars is nothing but a bunch of fucking wars. It's a bunch of them versus they, and a bunch of good versus evil, and a bunch of tech, and we're going to rule this planet, blow that planet up, take you into the Federation, whatever it might be. But we're going to fight over it, and we're going to blow up shit on the way through. And you look at Star Trek and you go, looks like everybody kind of figured it out. They kind of got it together. They integrated technology. They didn't become
Legalize weed.
And that is what I was looking for, Mr. Goodall.
Yeah.
Because that's exactly what all these guys, Roddenberry and all of them were on psychedelics of various forms. And all of the great music, most of the great music from the 60s and 70s were a bunch of stoners. They were tuning out and tuning on or turning on. I know, I was there. I remember it vividly. Just like the geezer down here that
Which geezer? They all perked up.
Yeah, they all woke up.
Yeah,
He has a habit of picking on me.
You talking to me?
You talking to me?
So
I'm loving the conversation, guys. I really am. You know, and Jared, you're making a lot of sense in the shit you're talking about. It's good stuff.
Oh, thanks.
Hey, don't encourage him. It's his first show. Okay,
No,
we still
I'm
got
gonna go with the gamer from down under. We're gonna listen to him.
No, look, no. Honestly, my thoughts. You know, I mean, see, obviously, I mean, look at all these caves they've found around the world. You know, cities beneath the ground. They've actually built those things just like I would call it like a nuclear fallout shelter. You know what I mean? Yeah. In its way, it was designed to hold 5,000 people and cattle and things like that. And the remains they found in these, they even found dried up animal dung, petrified animal dung. So they had animals and everything down there. They had their food sources. Well, I think it was Turkey. Wasn't it through Turkey and places like that? They actually found that. And I think there's some also in Colorado, I believe, caves. I think, if I remember rightly, I've been reading. But
I think you're very right. There are things that have been told to me by firsthand witnesses that do indicate a pre-Younger Dryas or biblical flood event history that shows large underground structures that would have housed tens of thousands of people. And it goes in line with, like in America, there's the ant people who came out and saved the Navajo and assorted other tribes. The legends go, the ant people came and brought them underground and saved them from a great deluge. And there's other stories like it around the world. But the reality is that those places you're talking about, they exist. And I think I have it on solid account. I trust the sources. And so, yeah, there's clearly a history even in the last, and this would follow with the last 13 to 30 or 40,000 years and maybe older, that there is clearly a large history we don't comprehend. I think that's why we're drawn to stories, since you live so close to the Shire, although it's one island over. I'm sorry, New Zealand's a country, but the reality is that I think.
Man, that was Did you feel that, B? Did you feel that?
I felt it. I felt it. Yeah, we're not as shy. I mean, I like to break away from the UK, but yeah, okay.
I
Yeah,
enjoyed the little twist at the end. That was
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
So-
I get the wit. You know what I mean? I do get it.
you know, the reality is, I think music, I think the psychedelic thing is a lot like steroids. If we want to jump ahead in our training, we take a steroid and we suddenly get stronger and faster. But in reality, we're cheating. So when we do a psychedelic, I think it's like banging on what I call the blinky board. You know, you get a red light, you get a green light. You're like, I'm banging on the blinky board and I got a response. And it's like, why are you banging on the control panel of a 747? And this is like if it was in the future and people didn't know what it was. And so when we do get in that psychedelic mode, we're activating something that we didn't train for. We didn't expand our minds to that consciousness level on our own. And so we get there, but I think and I'm not saying it's bad and people shouldn't try it. A lot of people have, and if we didn't have the data, we wouldn't know. So I think it's important that people have kind of gone on these they're any sort of these ethereal planing astronauts. You know, it's, on one hand, I think it's good. On another hand, I think we should be aware that just like steroids, you're activating something without the training and the steps to get the muscles to flex there naturally. And I think we're capable. So between the artist and the things that have come from it, whether it's music or something else, the reality is that I think we're tapping into something, downloading from a collective consciousness that has been fragmented. We don't know how to defrag it, and every now and then we activate it right with collective dreaming, like Sufism or anything else. We've done a lot of things to it, but all together, we're drawn to music and art and movies and stories that are something that are deep, deep, deep in our collective and individual genetic memories that really do indicate to a prior. It's not just that we've done everything once already. I think it's that, again, it's just, if we'll ever wake up, we might get the full stories. But for now, we get these pieces and we're like, yeah, Star Wars. Yeah. Star Trek. Yeah.
You know, one of the
Beatles.
most interesting things I found was most of these ruins we find spread around the world, they have one major thing in common. It's a chamber that resonates frequencies.
Yeah.
It's, they all have this in common. It's everything's to do with sound, harmonics.
I think we go back to Tesla and everything that people are becoming more and more, I think, conscious about. You do not need a large, you don't need a loud sound or what we would hear, a tonal frequency. It could be so sub bass, it could be so low that if you're using the earth, the Nazca lines, I don't care about the monkeys are nice and the spiders are all that's great. All those are great. But the oldest Nazca lines, and I got the privilege of talking to Eric Von Daniken a couple different times personally about this, and the Nazca lines, a lot of people don't understand that the ones that are just straight lines, according to Von Daniken directly from him, is that they have electromagnetic properties. They do look like giant earth antennas, and they are thousands of years old. And they, like some of the Nazca lines, one of them runs over 26 kilometers. Just one line, and it's straight, and it doesn't deviate. And so there are many of the base under the animals and the monkeys and the spiders are these straight lines that appear to be an earth gridded, piezoelectric, some sort of electromagnetic, some sort of an antenna system, which also with megalithic buildings and engineered soils of many kinds, not just terra preta, we're talking about a frequency energy driven society that was global and also seemed to have, in the iterations of it, we're talking about one of them had abilities like one of the synesthesias have different things. Like if I said 5 or 4 or red, if I said red, you might see the number 5 literally in front of you. That's a synesthesia. There's some that affect your smell, and they combine all your senses. There's one where you can dimensionally, if I said to everyone right now, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, you would actually see like an onboarded display in front of your outer vision. You would see a 5, a 4, a 3, a 2, a 1. You could actually see that, and it affects your smell. There's a touch synesthesia. where you could watch two people, say in a play, they would hug or touch or fight, and you could feel. There are people with this ability right now, with this synesthesia, they could actually sense or feel someone else's touch. So imagine a world where this is not accidental. It's not a genetic freak accident. Collective consciousness, where instead of me being on this cell phone or dialing in, or us on the internet, we could see, sense, touch, feel, and hear each other just by being connected to the planet. Because we seem, if you table all the facts, we have these genetic abilities built into us, and we have weird splices in our genes that are not natural, that are definitely done. And so how many years, how many millions or hundreds of thousands, how far do we got to go back to the ones or multiple societies? Maybe some of them did it in a more advanced to us, but primitive to whoever initially designed it. Who did all the chicken before the eggs? Who designed this worldly system? What were the coastlines? How did we all actually communicate? And as you're traveling through on a planet that's vibrating, that's picking up energy signals from the rest of the universe and the galaxies and the other planets, did we have a system with these giant megalithic pyramids and systems that have been disintegrated and turned to dust? Did they filter out? Did we walk along one day and enter a new portion of the universe, and suddenly you felt sick, Bauer got cancer, and Goodall just became a dick? And what if that was all from a frequency or energy that we didn't know how to tune out?
I'm insulted.
Well, the American
That's-
Indians.
that already happened.
The American
that's
Indians
already
during
done.
the American Indians during the Second World War, the U.S. Army allowed them to have long hair, and they would send out as scouts in Europe. And when they used to go out as scouts, they literally take their boots off and they run around bare feet. And they reckon between their long hair and grounding themselves, they can actually get this what they call visions, or what intuitive senses, by tuning in with the earth. And the hair was like a receiver. And they found with the studies they actually done was when they cut their hair, they seemed to lose this ability. That's why the long hair was, and in a lot of other cultures too, long hair is very important. Not just a religious fact. It's part of their spiritual being.
It hasn't helped Robert at all.
No.
Or you, Gary.
Well,
I'm alive. Oh, he's
have
totally
one
out of touch.
question.
Hey, I don't waste my hormones growing hair, man.
What about
So-
long beards? Oh,
Long
sorry.
beards.
yeah,
You can bring this
yeah.
with it too. Then
Dude,
I have one question about lost civilizations or highly I don't know, but if they were so far advanced, all these civilizations that we talk about that might have been previous or resets or whatever, then why is everything that we find all stone and mortar or clay pots? Why aren't we finding anything that has energized? We found Egyptian batteries supposedly in clay pots, but why don't we have anything similar to what we have, where we have steel buildings and glass and technology and engines and motors? Why don't we find any of that buried anywhere?
Maybe
On that note,
because
we actually have, we found, oh, sorry, Jim, you go for it.
I said maybe back in the day they were eco freaks and everything was biodegradable.
Maybe they respect
Oh.
nature. Who knows?
Maybe if Star Wars was our past and Star Trek is our future, then where is the technology buried? If say like this example you gave, if we left Earth and went and populated Mars or somewhere else,
Well,
then
I mean,
where are the plants that built these things? Where is the technology here that got covered up or buried or?
Yeah, so you're looking for like a Planet of the Apes kind of scenario where you're going down the beach and there's a Statue of Liberty sticking out of the sand at an angle, going, yeah, there was something definitely here a long time ago that got seriously fucked up.
We actually have those things. In fact, Robert, if you wanted to look for it quick and maybe share a screen, it won't be hard to find. Do Siberian nano gold parts found. Siberia nano gold machine parts or something. So what he's going to find is in the 90s, they're looking for gold mines. These are spiraled, very machine looking bits of gold that look like they were part of a machine, and they were found in a layer of, it's very interesting. They're never talked about, they're known, but these are parts that could be 220,000. They were in a layer of earth. They're not what's called like an intrusive burial. You know, someone comes along, they dig a hole, they dig through a bunch of undisturbed layers of earth, and you end up with an intrusive burial. So you take something that's young and you put it in someplace that's old. And these nano gold parts were in a layer in the Ural Mountains that would make it about 220,000 years old. And these are highly like interesting. There's also aluminum that was found that they said they tried to wash it off. It was under a mastodon. So here's the parts, and
Seen
this
it
is something.
before.
Yeah. So these parts clear, again. They think they were found in a layer. There was one Russian scientist talking about it. This is researching, but these are in a layer of earth that was 220,000 years old. It would be very hard to maintain anything metal over a long period of time. Even plastics degrade, stuff like that. So there are some weird things about our past. One would be granite. If you talk to geologists, we have no explanation as to why granite exists, why the composition of the materials that make up granite are just have happened. We don't actually know how oil's made, and we said it was melted dinosaur, but it seems to be not the case. So
you know what it is? You know, I'll go ahead and drop my nugget on that one. Oil is not fossil. It's abiotic. It is a natural result of the geologic processes of the planet. It's the second most plentiful liquid on the planet and in the planet next to water. And it has nothing to do with fossils. Fossils, and the whole concept of it being called a fossil fuel, was cooked up back in the late 1890s. And it has been hoarded and used accordingly since. The science behind it proves that it has nothing to do with vegetation, rotting meat, bones, decomposition, none of that shit. Oil, petroleum, is like the lubricant of the planet. That's a part of our planet, and it's constantly remade, which is explained by having a plasma core, which is constantly fueling the processes and the growth of the planet that we're on. Now, I don't know about you guys, but I'm thinking, if you can't put that in your pipe and smoke it, then I don't know what to tell you.
Jim took the hit. I mean the hint.
Both. Yeah. It's medical. It's medical. I earned it. I've had a headache for almost 39 years. So.
That's yeah. So the other thing we find besides stone things, by the way, I want to go back and address some of the stone things. We talked about some of the hard stuff. So there's the step pyramid of Saqqara. Ben from Uncharted X should get a lot of credit for bringing this up in some of his docus on YouTube. But they found over 40,000 vases and there is more than that. But what's interesting is that these, like the core samples that one of the fathers of Egyptian archaeology, Flinders Petrie, at the dawn of the Industrial Revolution, they found core samples that were bored out of megalithic constructions or blocks, and they go on for feet and feet and feet. But the spirals and these core samples are found all over Egypt, and which I think also indicates the extent by which, when they say, by the way, 90% of the Egypt, for a long time when I started doing interviews and research, when you hear the term that 90% of Egypt is buried, I thought, oh, okay, well, that makes sense. There's a lot of sand now. 5,000 years ago, it used to be a jungle. So it's just buried under sand. And then I finally got a good correction because I've been able to talk to some of the big Egyptian researchers, and I mean, the people that are, some of the people that are actually there full time. And the reality is that 90% of it isn't that it's buried and it isn't it's a town. It's underground constructions, things that were maybe above ground at one point, like the Great Labyrinth of Egypt that they talk about having disappeared. And it was
Abydos looks like it has nothing to do with that period.
Yeah, there's a lot of Egypt, and these core samples and these vases, they're made out of stones like diorite. These are some of the hardest stones on Earth. And as an example, or some of them are made out of like schist, like the schist disc makes zero sense. That one you should look up, Robert. The schist disc, that looks machined. But the reality is that these core samples, Flinders Petrie, father of Egyptian archaeology, I mean, one of his points was this is problematic because the machining on the core sample was at about 22,000 times anything they could do and we could do currently. And that's a problematic because they're not just doing it with really hard stones, they're doing it with really frail. And so they're able to, with impunity, do whatever the hell they want with any kind of stone or element, right down to those nanostructures in the Ural Mountains. When you start tabling all the finds and not just relate them to a single dynastic culture, and if you take out the part where it's dynastic and just say, okay, what are all the advanced weird things we're finding besides not one at the Baghdad batteries, but at the time the Germans found 7 and it had to do with a greater empire around Iraq. But those batteries are also dynastic. They're things that people remembered maybe from a higher technology day. And so how far do we have to leapfrog back? I mean, there's cuneiform tablets that show, this is an interesting one when it comes to frequency and sound, which we're going to relate back to the stone objects and metal things, like the aluminum. That's the other thing, Robert. There's an aluminum joint that was found under a mastodon skull that would put it at least 35 or 38,000 years old. And that aluminum, we didn't even invent aluminum till about, basically you should not have aluminum that's 36,000 years old. But
right.
Yeah. So for these stone objects, or the basis for the technology to cut them, the machines that would have been used, I mean, even if it's a frequency energy machine, again, metal things don't last that long. And then people recycle. And they also like to.
Let me ask you, I'm sorry to interrupt you, because you're hitting on a frequency thing that I think there's some data out there that makes you go, and it's in Egypt, but more specifically, it's down in the Harappan valley where the Mohenjo-Daro is. I mean, that is basically a radioactive event site.
Oh, yeah.
Right. And nobody knows. There's nothing about the culture that none of the documents or culture apparently survived. Nobody knows who was there. All we can do is look at the pattern recognition of the way it was laid out and apparently administered in the way it was laid out. There was nothing but process and making things happen. There was no military, no police, no authoritarian guard or any of that. It seemed to be a culture that was designed to just kind of propagate itself. And it apparently had been there for a while, but that's only based on the best telemetry that we've been able to apply to what we've found. But the stuff on the first stuff that's come in is like, there's radiation there. Stuff has still got radiation. The stone is melted. There are little pools of stuff that has clearly was molten at one point, and that's all over the place. That we don't have we can't do that with our current physics and our technology. So what made that happen?
Or for our best and worst imaginations, if you had that kind of technology, what kind of weapons would you have had? Which might explain a lot of what's missing. And and what kind of disagreement did a worldwide connected, collective consciousness society, what could they have weaponized and why? And what did they disagree about? Or worse, or as bad.
And is that the reason they're not here anymore?
Right. And what if it was external? What if we had left the planet? What if we left the solar system? What if we did, hey, smart idea, let's find intergalactic Hitler somewhere. We should send them a message, who we are, where we're from, how to get to us. How would you like to enslave us in the future? I mean, what a dumbass idea. Why would they think that anyone advanced or just advanced enough would be benevolent? You dumbasses. So maybe they achieved that success, and maybe they did.
They clearly didn't see any of the Star Wars movies.
Right. And they were busy living it. And anyway, they can stick Luke into a tank of water and fix him, but people still grow old and die at 100 years. Okay.
Well, sure. In India, they talk about the Vimanas, don't they? I mean, yep. the flying machines. And there's also a lake they found. For years they thought, it's an old meteorite crater, but apparently in the vicinity around there, the high births of deformity of the people, bloody a bit like flaminamide, small arms and two heads and all this freaky shit. But the point goes down when they.
I don't know what you're turning into or tuning into there, but. I haven't seen any of that. Please do not send any links in the chat. Anybody, do not click on a link from B. Okay.
Anyway, apparently, what they've done is they found, actually, as Robert was saying, like the sand that's been crystallized, and they found it can only happen under a nuclear explosion. So they've actually closed off the area. It's got still got a radiation level on it. But the thing is that their history on a 10,000-year-old scroll, they talk about the rod that fell from the sky. When it hit the ground, it lit up like 10,000 suns. And the armies threw themselves into the rivers and the oceans and everything else. And their hair was falling out, the fingernails falling out. And that's documented on their text.
Yeah, I mean, the Vedics, the Shiva, Krishna, all those cats they were dropping it hard. You talking about going out to the club or going into the hood?
Yeah, well, at the end of the day, it may not be.
These guys were doing it. They were doing it from the sky. It was like they had their own little Air Force kind of thing, and they had these magic weapons that would do thunderbolts. It's like, get me one of those. And they were just the stories are amazing and they're incredibly detailed. And there's all of this anomalous shit that kind of supports, like you were talking about, Jared, earlier, about off the coast of India, Dwarka. I mean, that whole expedition, it's like the Dwarka is there on the coast, but half a mile out off under the ocean is the original Dwarka. And it just supposedly was a myth. It was a legend. It's like, oh yeah, there was a Dwarka. And then they went out and somebody went out and went for a swim. Said, hey, well,
was this a global conflict? That's the question. Was it a global?
What are you talking about? What are you talking about?
Yeah, the ancient Holocaust, as you want to say, the war.
Didn't you watch any Star Wars?
It's a galactic.
Oh,
intergalactic.
It's all there.
Oh, give me strength.
It's all there in the first couple of episodes.
What if it was between human settlers between planets and just an interplanetary problem between humans? It could have been they contacted people or aliens. Could be not happy space traveling anthropologists. It could have been human on human, but it could have been from planet. Wait a
minute. Did you say human on human? Do you mean Homo sapien sapien?
Oh my God, you're so high.
Oh man, it's got me. Anyway, the thing is,
it's a legitimate question.
it
made
could have been
sense when I
it could have
thought
been
about it.
just a global thing, just like we had the Cold War, and what happens if Cuba did launch a missile or whatever, and everybody's affected, you know? I mean,
Right.
it could be a global thing, you know? And it doesn't have to be aliens.
Well, I've talked to Michael Cremo. Michael Cremo's done a lot of time now in India, and there is more than one site that does seem to show nuclear. There's that African one, but India does seem to have some remnant memory, at least in the ruins and in the radioactivity, of clearly some sort of past nuclear weaponized disasters. And what the hell did we fight about? You know, so
Well,
is that disaster?
Who was it? Who was it? Do you think it was us? Or do you think it was a different version of us? Or do you think it was something that was a version in a cycle? Going back to the point earlier, I think there's been multiple iterations. I think the Atlantean was probably the most recent, since we have the more references to it. But it was just this global thing. And there was Lemuria, all of the stuff down in the South Pacific, the stuff that went on in Siberia, and the whole northern, that whole Russian, northern Asia. It's just 12 time zones? And it's just ginormous. There is more awesomeness up there that people have heard legends about, just like the inner earth. Jared, you and I were talking about Brooks Agnew's, and I mean, that's a whole model. But then you got all these things going on apparently down in Antarctica. It's been frozen apparently for what we're told a few thousand years. Seems as though it's probably gone through some catastrophic changes, maybe some kind of pole shift, maybe some kind of plate shift, maybe some kind of geomagnetic shift.
Well, we know that the poles, Greenland used to be the North Pole. We know that Antarctica used to have tropical plants. We know this. It's not a maybe. We know that the poles shift. They're shifting now, and Greenland's no longer the North Pole, and Antarctica would have been wherever the hell it was when the Peary-Reese map was created, which, you know, clearly indicates
South Atlantic.
Yeah. So, I mean, yeah, so things keep moving and shifting on this planet, which brings us back to we don't have a proper societal picture of any kind of past survivors of an ancient apocalypse or an advanced society, because we aren't living on those coastlines. We're not living on that planet. And whether it's Lemuria or the allegory, the stories of the idea of 13 Atlantean cities, and that they were interacting with us like the Peace Corps, like they were helping us dumb monkeys, like still deal with stuff. But then they eventually retreated? Did they go underground? Did they leave the planet? What was there really? Because there's not one Atlantis, then there's the general allegory of it just was a story about Lemuria sinking, or about any of these cities, whether it's off of India or Cuba. Was Atlantis just a single city, or was it what they're describing? Like was it a series of cities? Which
it was a civilization, I think, that was scattered around not only the planet but throughout some periods of time. I think I don't think it was just popped in and then all of a sudden the entire planet was populated with whoever these folks were. But I think they kind of started and then things grew over time.
What if they were just the survivors? What if they were just the survivors of the more advanced past when we were a global society, and what if they nuked each other and they got reduced to 13 cities of surviving advanced humans that still contributed to everyone else, and then eventually they got fighting with each other because we
got thrown back into the Stone Age. You know what I mean? With any nuclear war, you're going to get the EM charges going, knock out every electrical device out. You know, So but machinery won't work, plumbing won't work, nothing works.
Isn't that what the Rebel Alliance was in Star Wars? It was a bunch of ragtag civilizations and cultures.
So for an hour left, or for whatever we have left, Robert, should we just talk about Star Wars? Who would like that?
No, I want to talk about Star Trek. I want y'all to get all your Star Wars out of you so you don't feel left out, because Star Wars is the past.
I want to hear Jim talk.
Yeah, I'm listening.
Yeah, Jim.
Uh,
No, that's
I am
boring, Jim.
gonna-
It's your turn.
I am going to bow out and bail, and you guys can continue whatever you want to continue.
yeah,
Oh,
I'm gonna- I
Carol, it was
think
great having
we're-
you. Thanks, as always. I mean,
we're
you
3
don't
hours and
have
10
to.
minutes.
Yeah, you don't have to bail, but I know that out there in the Midwest, you got chickens and goats and shit that are probably needing your attention.
Well, it's not a bad spot to. You guys could continue onward, but yeah, Midwest. We can have a Star Wars episode all by itself.
He's not going to let it go. He's not going to let it go.
Well,
you know, maybe
Great talking to all you guys. We'll see you next time.
Catch you later,
yeah,
Joe.
buddy. Thanks.
Take
Have a good
care.
one, buddy. Bye-bye.
Give me a buzz this weekend, Jared.
I will tomorrow.
Okay, sounds good. Not early.
No, it sounds like we've gone as late as we are. Yeah, got to get up in the morning.
Hey, what's the
All right.
time there, guys? I mean, it's only just after, was it 1:44 p.m. here?
Here's 10.
For me,
10
it's almost 1 a.m. What about you, Jim?
Yeah, it's almost it's 10:45 or 10:45.
Well, we've been going on now for 3 hours and 28 minutes, or 20 minutes, should
Yeah.
say.
Yeah, that's probably a good place to wrap it up. Besides,
wanna
I- you
thank
know,
everybody.
I don't
always-
think-
I enjoy our Geezer Geeks Fest on Saturday nights because we live such exciting lives. Yeah, and I told Rosemary I may be going down to Belize for 3 months. She said,
Oh.
what?"
I'm sure that went over good.
I really wish I could join you guys. Say, I'd have a ball of a time. Oh God, yeah,
yeah.
that's wonderful.
Well, we'll have to
What?
talk more about it. I mean, it's nothing settled or figured out yet for the next expedition, but and what we're doing, but we'll have to talk about that sometime.
Sounds absolutely fascinating. And actually, I think I'd be going too. Anyway, really nice meeting you, Jared.
Oh, it's nice
very
meeting you too.
Very interesting subjects, and I think I connect what you're saying. It's good shit, man. I mean, good stuff. Honestly,
Cool. Well,
Anyway, I mean, it's nice to hear somebody come out with something really constructive compared to this.
oh my God, you hear what he's saying about you, Robert? It's about time.
Yeah, I mean,
no,
yeah,
but
but
no,
just
Robert,
take in
always on the way out.
consideration, He lives in the other side of the planet.
He does. He lives in tomorrow, Jim. Never forget this. You live in
that's right.
tomorrow.
he's in
Yeah.
Tomorrowland.
As
And-
somebody said to me before, was it you, Robert? You said I live on the arse of the world.
Something like that. You were somewhere
Right.
around Uranus and maybe a pimple around there. But but
There's so many interesting things about Australia. Terra Preta has been found there. There's that whole Egyptian mystery. But the
that's in Newcastle, isn't it? That one in the cave.
yeah, well, they think it maybe they had a settlement, maybe a whole area.
Well, also in the Cairo Museum, and it came out of Tutankhamun's tomb, I think, boomerangs
Yep.
and other spears which are indigenous to Australia.
Yep.
So
And
that black granite, those black granite, they did all the carvings with statues. In Egypt, they only come in small portions. The only place they can get quantity in the size they were actually using was Australia. Apparently, there's only 2 places on the planet where they actually have that black granite.
that's
Interesting.
really, I didn't know that. That's fascinating.
They had small parts, like in Egypt, but nothing big enough to actually. And look at those statues. That stone is so friggin' hard, and they're trying to tell us it was done with brass hammers and chisel. And look at the
No, the
polish
hell with
on it.
that. That's so
And look at the
stupid.
polish on it.
I've seen some of those black statues on tour here in Minnesota. I've seen some of them up close, and they're incredible. They're incredible.
Yeah, I asked somebody how did they get the polish on it. They said they used shark skin. Well, but I know the carpenters
like on the
Must have been
coastal
the
region.
skin of a steelhead shark, I guess,
Well,
maybe.
apparently, I know
Unintended.
carpenters in the ancient days that lived on the coast actually used shark skin as a sandpaper, but that they were only working on wood, not granite.
No.
I mean, have you rubbed your hand across a good sized shark? It is like very coarse sandpaper.
It is
Yeah.
amazing, you know.
The only
It is.
sharks that I've rubbed that I've felt were they were female.
Oh yeah, oh, there we go. You're
And-
mixing with the wrong
And
crowd,
I
Robert.
didn't know I was going to get bit until it was too late. So
Oh, we've all been down that road, haven't we, Jim?
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, well.
Yeah, we've all been down that road. Yeah, but there's that. All right, hey, well, hey, come back again, Jared, and join us again because I think there's a lot more ground we could cover.
Oh, that'd be great. I don't know if I've complained too much or said too much to Dick, but we'll see what he
No.
says.
No. Hey, see, Dick.
see, he's punching his card on the way out.
I've got to be nice to Robert really because he's got control of the button there.
He
It's
does,
my
but
button. Yeah, it's my button.
It's his
It is your button. I'm surprised there even is a button on this channel, but hey,
Hey, man, you know, we're gonna come back and do this again, and we're gonna compare our streams.
I also love to have you on my podcast as well too, Jared. I haven't done one for a few weeks proper.
Oh, sure.
I've been putting
get my email or have Robert. Can you hook us
Yep,
up?
he's got my phone number. He calls me from down there, and I'm like, yeah, I remember this used to be collect call from Mr. B in Australia. It's like, nope, I'm not taking it. Goodbye. Now
I
it's just
do
he
not
shows
do
up-
collect call.
he shows up on my text. His call, he shows up. I mean, goddamn, Australia's calling me.
Well, just
Yeah.
WhatsApp
Same
it.
with Jim. Same with Jim. I call it what Jim says. What the fuck are you on now?
Yeah, that's pretty much the reaction.
Yeah, but he always looks forward to chatting to me. For moments.
Well, gentlemen,
Yeah.
I think this is we're at 3. Yeah, we're 3.5. I think that's more than enough because we have covered quite the wide, eclectic variety of all kinds of hooey. We've been hoo hopping through the conspiratorium of what the fuck is going on because if it's there to look at and go and ask. I mean, if you're not asking what the fuck, not
You
only
need to-
having a reaction, but asking it, you're missing out on half of the fun.
You need to create a lead in to the program that goes for 15 seconds or something.
Yeah.
Hey, Jared. By the way, before I go,
Yeah.
when you get my email, when I respond back to you, send me some links to some of the information that you cover that I can download pictures and things and videos and whatever, and then we can use that on the next podcast.
Sure, I have a press pack, and you know, I have a website and a YouTube channel, and we have some new stuff coming out because of our ArchaeoX stuff. But yeah, I'll get you all the info, and then we can. And I got a couple photos for you that you can use.
Oh,
and
magic.
I've got the link. I've got the link to his OnlyFans site, so I'll send that to you.
Oh, you were supposed to be my only private customer, Robert. What the
Dude,
hell?
I got to share this. Are you kidding me? This deserves to be.
Robert can't get enough dick.
Oh yeah, he's a worry. Anyway,
Can't be
listen,
enough
guys.
of one, that's for sure.
Listen, guys, I'm going. Catch you later. Have a great week.
Gentlemen,
All right.
we're out of here. Have a great weekend. Thank you very
Jared,
much.
Jared,
Catch you
Yeah,
later.
have a good night.
Catch you
We'll-
later, Jim.
We'll be in
Talk to you
touch,
later.
and as we
Mr.
do.
B, be
All right.
good.
Yeah, I will. Okay, catch you later, guys. Bye bye now.
All right.
What the hell? There you are, Jared. Are you still there? There you go. All right. All right, everybody. Thanks. Hope you had as much fun as we did. That was actually a lot of fun. Covered all kinds of stuff. Looking forward to the comments, the likes, the shares, all that other stuff. You know, the thing. Have a good one. Thanks.